Have you heard? Have you heard? The god's extreme palace was destroyed overnight. All the disciples and elders of the god's extreme palace have died. It seems like the god's extreme palace's palace master has disappeared as well. God's extreme palace's palace master? This is the number one beauty. How many people want to take her for themselves? Chen Xianbel is an exceptional woman. Whoever can get her into bed, that's really incredible. Who is this strong? Could he destroy the god's extreme palace in one night? Even Sword Sky Sect would not be able to do it, right? Yeah, who is it? When did such a strong expert appear? Other than the god's extreme palace being exterminated, do you know of another thing? Sword Sky Sect's Song Xianhu is crippled. What? Song Xianhu has been crippled by someone? He was the disciple that the Sword Sky Sect valued the most, and was also the most monstrous genius that the Sword Sky Sect had seen in the past few years. The realm of the Emperor Swordsman, along with the fact that the sword of the Emperor was an invisible sword realm, all those years ago, shook the entire ancient world, and yet he was actually crippled. Who is it? It was those few people. Monster. That's impossible. Those monster-level powerhouses also have Sword Sky Sect S, and what are they planning to do with Song Xianhu? It won't affect them. Who knows? God's extreme palace was exterminated, Sword Sky Sect's Song Xianhu was crippled. This year's clan congress is going to be interesting, ha ha ha. This gives the other sects hope. All the streets and alleys were talking about what had happened last night. What they were discussing about the God's Extreme Palace was not the destruction of the God's Extreme Palace but the beauty of God's Extreme Palace's palace master, Chen Xianbel. She was known as the ancient world's number one beauty. Countless suitors. However, no one could win her heart, not even the men who looked at her a few more times. Some said that she was a stone maiden, while others said that she wholeheartedly pursued cultivation. She did not have the time to focus on her love life. This time, the god's extreme palace was exterminated. Chen Xianbel's disappearance made many sigh. Then there was the Sword Sky Sect's Song Xianhu. This peerless genius youth. He had always been prided upon by the Sword Sky Sect and had always protected him well. The reason he had brought him to the clan congress this year was to let him shine. He had shocked the world. However, to lose his life without even going to God's material ground was a huge loss to her. Elder Yarrow, how are your injuries? Sword Sky Sect's temporary residence. In an exquisite little courtyard, several elders were frowning. Seeing an old man walk out of the room, Sword Sky Sect's vice-sect leader Lei Xiao immediately walked forward. Elder Yarrow gently shook her head. I have managed to preserve my life, but I'm afraid that my cultivation is. Lei Xiao's forehead turned sinister, and asked, how is your cultivation? Elder Yarrow said, I'm afraid he won't be able to recover his cultivation. His injuries are too severe, and his sea of consciousness was severely damaged. This is a small matter, but his brain is more important. Lei Xiao asked, what's wrong with your brain? Elder Yarrow said, his brain has already generated a huge amount of fear. I have entered his brain before. Other than fear, there is also fear. He was completely different in the past. He is arrogant, confident, disdainful of everything under the heavens, but now there is nothing. I have it, so even if my injuries are healed, I won't be able to recover my cultivation. He had been crippled. Lei Xiao was completely frozen in place. Elder Yarrow shook his head and sighed, muttering, for a genius to fall like this, just what in the world is going on? What a pity. A few clan elders walked over to Lei Xiao's side. At this time, Lei Xiao bellowed, Li Feng, little brother, disciple is here. In the corner of the courtyard was a disciple who had been keeping his head down the entire time. He was the one who had accompanied Song Xianhu to the auction yesterday and was the one who had carried Song Xianhu back. Hearing the vice-sect master's call, his body trembled as he immediately walked forward. Lei Xiao stared angrily at Li Feng with his sword-like eyebrows, and said, what happened yesterday? How did the immortal fox get injured? Who hurt him like that? With immortal fox's cultivation, even if she met with the divine space's powerhouse, she would not be injured like this. What exactly happened? He really couldn't wrap his head around it. He could no longer control the anger in his heart. Song Xianhu was the sect master's direct disciple, so the sect master held him in high regard. This time, she wanted Song Xianhu to shock the world, and then be selected by the Divine Space's powerhouse, but now, everything vanished into thin air. Not only that, he still could not explain it to the sect master. Li Feng tremblingly said, Yes, it's ancient antiquity, it's ancient antiquity's leader, it's him, he. Lei Xiao's eyes became suspicious. Ancient antiquity? What sect is this? Many of the elders were also at a loss. I've never heard of it. Never heard of it. The top 100 sects don't have this sect. What kind of background? Li Feng said, they are only middle-ranked sects, and their strength is below the 200th rank. Lei Xiao said, Are you saying that this kind of trash sect's disciple injured an immortal fox? How many people did they send? Li Feng said, One person. Lei Xiao's pupils shrank, and he said solemnly, Li Feng, did you see it clearly? For such a trash sect, even an immortal fox can annihilate the entire sect. You mean a single person? He didn't believe it. Emperor Swordsman, formless sword realm. Song Xianhu could easily exterminate a large number of sects with this kind of cultivation. Lei Xiao couldn't believe that a single person could beat him up and cripple him. Li Feng swallowed his saliva and said, Vice Sect Master, fellow elders, that person's cultivation level is so strong that I have never seen it before. He is a monster. No, he is a devil. Devil. Yes, it's the devil. He's the devil. When Li Feng thought of Long Fei, when he thought of how Long Fei had kicked Song Xianhu in the face, his face couldn't help but turn pale. His body was also trembling. He was very scared. Seeing Li Feng being so frightened, Lei Xiao's heart sank. What kind of person is able to scare Song Xianhu to this extent? No matter who you are. To offend my Sword Sky sect, and make me, Lei Xiao, unhappy, is something that your 18 generations of ancestors can forget about. Lei Xiao's gaze tensed up. His killing intent was strong. God number 1 yard. When Long Fei returned to the courtyard, the entire courtyard had already been swept clean. The waiter kept apologizing that he could not take care of number 1 room with word Huang, and did not mention a word about the number 1 room with word Huang being exterminated. No one came up to ask anything. Bailey Tianhai sent the waiter away, walked to Long Fei's side and said, God's extreme palace was destroyed. Long Fei nodded and said, It's gone. If you hurt my brother, then you must die. Bailey Tianhai was secretly moved in his heart, and said, Right, the girl went out last night, and she still hasn't come back yet. Before he could finish his words, Phoenix walked into the room with a stick of candied fruits in her hand. She pouted and said, Who said that I wasn't back? Humph. Bailey Tianhai, I never thought that you would like to make small reports. Bailey Tianhai felt awkward. At this time, without waiting for Long Fei to ask, the Phoenix mysteriously asked, My darling, where is your god's pavilion? I caught a bunch of souls for you. My darling, I caught a bunch of souls for you. My darling, I caught a bunch of souls for you. Phoenix giggled as she held Long Fei's arm, just like a little girl who wanted to be praised. Long Fei looked at her naive smile, and directly kissed her on the forehead. Phoenix's eyes were wide open as she looked at Long Fei with blinking eyes. Her big black eyes twinkled. With just a tiny bit of tears, she was able to cause others to pamper her. The Phoenix was moved by Long Fei's kiss. She wanted to get a praise from Long Fei, but she did not expect him to kiss her forehead. She became excited immediately, and also, her mind slightly shook off a trace of the ripples. It was as if a special emotion was about to burst out from her mind, and that emotion also seemed to be about to leap into Long Fei's embrace. She couldn't control herself. What is this? Was it the memories of his previous life? Or what? The Phoenix did not know, she only knew that kind of incomparable love for Long Fei, incomparable desire to be together with Long Fei, surpassed her. What is it? What is the memory of my previous life? Phoenix thought to herself. She wanted to know. Her aunt had told her that after she had gone through the 9th circulation, all her memories from her previous life would appear. At that time, she would know everything. She didn't seem to be working hard to cultivate, but she had never stopped. The way she trained was different from ordinary people. Just like what Long Quang said, she cultivated while standing still. This was related to her physique. The 9 revolutions is still far from here. Right now, she really wanted to know what she had hidden in her previous life. Looking at the phoenix who was in a daze, Long Fei said, "Silly girl, what are you daydreaming about?" Phoenix's small face reddened and she giggled. "Of course there is." Long Fei said, "Don't leave by yourself in the future, it's too dangerous, understand?" Phoenix obediently nodded her head and said, "En." As he said that, he took out a purple gold bottle gourd and shook it in front of Long Fei. "My darling, there are 13 divine souls inside." Long Fei took out the god's pavilion and asked, "How do I use it?" Phoenix said, "It's very simple. You need to first sign a contract with the god's pavilion, or directly have it recognize you as its master." The god's pavilion was a divine treasure from the ancient times. Psychic. If they did not recognize it as their master, or waited for its approval, then this god's pavilion was an ornament with no value at all. If you want to use it, then you must first recognize it as your master. Long Fei fiddled with the god's pavilion, and said to the god's pavilion, "I see, I don't want to use a strong one, you be good, we are at peace, if you were naughty. Hee. I guess you don't have a good life." A wave of threats arose. Phoenix giggled. Long Fei moved and entered the god's pavilion. Buzz. Rumble. The idea trembled. The entire world seemed to be filled with violent rumbles, as if the Great Hall of 10,000 Blessings was chanting a sutra. Long Fei's idea could barely endure it and was about to explode. He forced himself to calm down. At this time, a deep voice came from the sky above God's pavilion. "Kid, are you the only one who is threatening me?" Long Fei calmed his mind and said, "What? It seems like you want to skin it first." "Ah, ha, ha." God's pavilion laughed and said, "Seems like you want to make a move on me. Try." Long Fei was not long-winded. God's pavilion said, "Try it." Immediately, Long Fei moved and immediately unleashed a powerful force. However, without waiting for him to fully unleash his powers, a golden light flashed inside the god's pavilion. Shua. Long Fei's idea body split into 2. It was chopped down. Long Fei's idea had also instantly left the god's pavilion, and its expression changed. That sword attack just now. He didn't even have the chance to react. Phoenix looked at Long Fei and asked, "What's wrong? Mastering is a failure. Do you want me to help you?" Long Fei rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Damn it, I have never been humiliated like this before, to actually kill my idea instantly. Today, I want to see how strong you are." As soon as he finished, Long Fei's idea once again entered the god's pavilion. God's pavilion laughed again. "What? Do you want to try again?" Long Fei said, "Are you very arrogant?" God's pavilion said, "Ordinary arrogance, what about it? Are you unconvinced?" Long Fei was speechless. "Of course I can't accept this." His voice sank. The idea moved and immediately roared. Level 5 ancient dragon body idea was also a part of Long Fei. It could awaken the power of ancient dragon body. The dragon's roar shook. The power of the powerful holy dragon emperor burst forth. Long Fei's idea strength had also increased by countless times. Dragon roar. Someone from the Long family, God's pavilion, was shocked. Long Fei said, "What's wrong? Scared?" The God's pavilion laughed out loud and said, "Child, when I appeared, I did not have your dragon clan. Even if Long Batian called me senior in front of me, would I be afraid of you? Are you ready?" Damn, even Long Batian knows about this. Seems like this guy's background is not small, just based on his time and rank in ancient world. It seems like Phoenix was right, this is a divine object. Long Fei muttered in his heart, and then said, "Come here." The power of ancient dragon body of the 5th level was fully unleashed. God's pavilion reminded, "I'm ready." Long Fei's forehead was locked tight. He looked around. He didn't react to that sword attack. This time, he would definitely be able to block it. The sword must first be of interest. The sword hasn't moved, but the chi is ahead. The sword just now was too fast, I wasn't able to catch it. This time. Without waiting for Long Fei to finish, Boom. His strength sank. Once again, Long Fei's idea could not take it anymore, and immediately exploded on the spot. This time, it was not a sword. It was power, an incomparable power. He couldn't hold it either. Similarly, it was too fast to be reflected. Long Fei was confused. God's Pavilion smiled faintly, and said, "Child, you're still a little too inexperienced." Long Fei's idea disappeared bit by bit, and in his heart, he felt terrible. If it was a battle, then he would have already been killed twice. The idea shattered, and Long Fei once again returned to reality. "How is it?" Phoenix asked with concern. Long Fei's face looked a little awkward. He laughed bitterly and shook his head. "I did not succeed." This fellow. Long Fei couldn't say it out loud. Level 5 ancient dragon body, God's powerhouse would also be defeated by him, but in front of God's Pavilion, his strength was nothing but a child's play. It was completely useless. However, Long Fei did not give up. His fighting spirit grew even higher as he thought to himself, "I don't believe this." However, before he could enter the God's Pavilion again, the God's Pavilion in his hands was snatched by Phoenix. The Phoenix's eyebrows tightened, grabbed the God's Pavilion in Long Fei's hands and said, "This old fellow, his skin is itchy, right?" And then, the Phoenix idea moved. After pausing for a few seconds, Phoenix's pupils moved. He looked at Long Fei and said, "My darling, everything is settled. You can go and sign the contract with him now. He doesn't dare to do anything to you anymore." Long Fei. He really had a stupefied expression on his face. He really had a stupefied expression on his face. In just a few seconds, what happened? Long Fei looked at Phoenix with both of his eyes in a daze. The idea was exterminated with a single slash. The power of an ancient dragon body of the 5th level was also destroyed by one power. However, Phoenix had only entered for a few seconds. It's going to be done soon. Long Fei was very clear in his heart that the Phoenix was very special. From the moment he first laid eyes on the Phoenix, he knew that Dragon Kwong had also said that even if the Phoenix did nothing, it would still be able to break through the level up. Phoenix King Blood. 8 revolutions body. All of these were enough to show just how powerful the Phoenix was. But what kind of existence was the God's Pavilion? It was also a divine object from ancient times, yet it was tamed within a few seconds by her. The power of the Phoenix exceeded Long Fei's expectations. Phoenix giggled and said, "My darling, don't ask me that much. You just need to go and sign the contract with him right now." She did not say what she had just experienced. Since she didn't say anything, Long Fei didn't ask anymore. And then, the idea moved, and Long Fei once again entered the God's Pavilion. God's Pavilion became meek in an instant, and her voice carried gentleness. "You're here." Long Fei was a little not used to it. What happened just now?" God's Pavilion said. "Nothing happened. As long as you sign the contract with me now, I can serve you and raise up all the gods. If you had said she was here earlier, you wouldn't have needed to go through so much trouble," God's Pavilion casually added, as if he was still complaining. Even though he was complaining, he didn't say what had just happened. Because he didn't dare to say it from the start. A person that he didn't dare to talk to, how powerful was he? Long Fei softly asked, "She? You mean that girl just now?" The God's Pavilion wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he changed the topic and said, "Let's begin to sign the contract. This way, I can help you cultivate the myriad gods sooner. You have also experienced the two forces just now. One is the power of the sword, while the other is the power of the gods. You must be very powerful." Long Fei knew that he could not get anything out of him, and said, "All right, sign the contract." Half a minute later. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei and God's Pavilion for signing a contract. Ding. System notification. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining a mysterious reward. After signing the contract, a system notification suddenly sounded out saying that he had received a mysterious reward. Long Fei was slightly surprised. What is a mysterious reward? Let's see what you can reward me with. Long Fei did not do it on purpose. The reward from the system was definitely nothing good. It was probably just a low-grade item. Long Fei moved and clicked receive. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining King of Hen Tribe's God Soul. The notification sound finished. Long Fei's pupils suddenly shrank. What are you being mean, King of Hen Tribe? King of Hen Tribe that covers the sky? Yi Zichen opened his eyes wide and saw the system notification. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. After 10 tries, when he finally confirmed it was the King of Hen Tribe, Long Fei became extremely excited. Ha ha ha. Is it really that amazing? King of Hen Tribe was a top-notch great emperor in the Heaven Shrouding Tower. There were very few that were stronger than her. 1 life, 1 death. Moreover. And she was a girl. However, this was a completely different world between the ancient world and the Heaven Shrouding world. In a completely different plane, was the King of Hen Tribe rewarded by the system inside the Heaven Shrouding? Long Fei did not know. The system also could not give the correct location. However, none of this is the point. The key was that Long Fei was very excited. God's Pavilion, can I let my soul in right now? Long Fei was a little impatient. God's Pavilion was startled and asked with some doubt, you just signed a contract with me and you already have a soul? Or did you have a soul before this? Isn't it too fast? When he thought about it again, he felt relieved to think that the phoenix was with the God's Pavilion by Long Fei's side. God's Pavilion said lightly, sure, let him in. I will do my best to nurture him for you. Long Fei moved and released the soul of the King of Hen Tribe. His soul moved. He rushed straight to the roof. Just at this moment, the entire God's Pavilion released a loud rumbling sound, and the roof was almost broken through by the divine soul. Immense strength. What is this? What is this guy? This soul. This soul. Just whose soul was this? Kid, where did you get this divine soul? You want my God's Pavilion to shatter? God's Pavilion was a little angry. He felt that Long Fei was playing with him. He wasn't able to handle this divine soul. In that moment, it was as if his God's Pavilion was going to collapse. Although Long Fei did not know how strong of an impact the God's Pavilion had felt, it was not hard to tell it from the God's Pavilion's angry voice and the violent vibrations just now. Very fierce. Long Fei replied politely, Senior, you are overthinking it. This is a divine soul that I had obtained by chance. Do you think that I have no intention of messing with you? I want to know if this divine soul can be nurtured well. The soul could have its own thoughts. It was also possible that he didn't have it, even if it was something without an idea or a memory. However, their potential is the same. The God's Pavilion stared at Long Fei and confirmed that Long Fei was not messing with him. He heaved a sigh of relief. After thinking for a moment, he said, I don't know. He wasn't sure. Huh. Long Fei was stunned. God's Pavilion was a divine object from the ancient times. He could nurture the existence of any kind of god, but right now, he said that he did not know and did not have any confidence at all. The God's Pavilion continued, I can only say that I will do my best. He had already mustered up enough confidence to say such words. He had never seen such a soul before. If he did not know that this was the ancient world, he would have asked Long Fei if this divine soul was the outer space powerhouses. Long Fei asked, how long will it take to take form? How long? I don't know, God's Pavilion said helplessly. He was truly helpless. Long Fei thought that the King of Hen Tribe should hurry up and take form. To be able to meet with the powerful figures in the novels that he liked, this would be him. In other words, it was the system. Otherwise, this was absolutely impossible. All right. Long Fei was a little unreconciled, and said, I hope that she can quickly take form. God's Pavilion rolled his eyes at Long Fei. He thought so too. He was also thinking about what would happen after his Dao soul took shape and how much power would be unleashed. Long Fei left the God's Pavilion. Phoenix immediately asked, how is it? Have you signed a contract yet? Long Fei nodded and said, Phoenix said, these are 13 divine souls, I'll put them in the God's Pavilion for you. Long Fei took the purple gold gourd, and said, Girl, I just put in a special divine spirit just now, I want her to take form before I put in the other divine spirits. He wanted to give the God's Pavilion more time to nurture him. Phoenix stared blankly at Long Fei, then giggled and said, "Amen, my darling, you can make the decision." The phoenix would not interfere with Long Fei's choice. The phoenix would not interfere with Long Fei's choice. The divine souls she brought to Long Fei were all first-level divine souls, so these divine souls could help him become a little stronger. However, Long Fei had her own choice now, so she would definitely support it. In Long Fei's heart, he was thinking of how the King of Hen tribe could be formed as soon as possible at that time. That scene. He could not imagine it any longer. It had to be a strong explosion. "Martial uncle, you have to avenge me. I want revenge. If I am to kill him, if I do not kill him, then I will forever be feared by him. My cultivation, everything that will happen to me in the future will all be in vain." When Song Xianhu woke up, his whole body was in intense pain. In his heart, he thought of Long Fei. His body couldn't stop trembling. He was afraid. Very scared. He didn't even know how to describe the difference between him and Long Fei. Song Xianhu was very clear of his current situation. Only if Long Fei died, would the fear in his heart disappear. As long as the fear was dispelled, he would only need time to recover his cultivation. Thus, Long Fei had to die. Lei Xiao looked at Song Xianhu and said, "Immortal Fox, I have already sent someone to inform Senior Brother. Senior Brother will definitely think of a way for you." Song Xianhu shook and asked, "Is Master coming?" Lei Xiao said, "With such a big thing happening to you, Senior Brother will definitely rush over. Not only Senior Brother, your father should also be coming over." "My father." Song Xianhu subconsciously straightened his body. Upon hearing that his father was coming, his heart tensed up. Lei Xiao said, "I originally wanted to tell you in the clan congress, but now that you're in a situation like this, I've already told you in advance. Your father will come over from the divine space and you two can reunite." Originally, he wanted for Song Xianhu to take first place and be selected by the divine space powerhouse. The two father and son met in the divine space. Not only was his body severely injured, his mind and sea of consciousness were severely affected, and could not even unleash half of his power normally. Under such circumstances, he would not even be able to get good results in the clan congress. Song Xianhu replied, "I understand, it's just that my current state will definitely disappoint father." He couldn't help but clench his fists. He felt indignant in his heart. Lei Xiao said, "Don't feel too much pressure, rest well. Your father's cultivation is already very strong now, he has a firm footing in the divine space, this time he will definitely bring you something good." As for ancient antiquity, Lei Xiao's eyes slightly narrowed, revealing a gloomy and cold-killing intent, and said, "I have already made the arrangements. As long as Clan Congress meets any disciple of ancient antiquity, we will kill them all. You dared to provoke my Sword Sky sect. This is the result." Lei Xiao said fiercely, "Let him know the power of the #1 sect in ancient world, and let him know the consequences of provoking us." The Sword Sky sect was extremely powerful. As long as they said anything, any sect would respond. In Clan Congress, Long Fei and the rest would definitely be targeted at every corner, making it difficult for them to move an inch. Even if Long Fei's side only had Emperor Swordsman rank S, they were all. It would be too difficult to deal with all the powerhouse S of all the sects with them. It was impossible. Besides, their cultivations were merely at the first level of the Sword Emperor. There were many people stronger than them. Song Xianhu said heavily, "Thank you, Junior Master." He was not Long Fei's match, and Lei Xiao was definitely not either. Neither was his master. Long Fei was too strong, he was from the Emperor Swordsman, and was completely oppressed by Long Fei. Lei Xiao was a Emperor Swordsman and the Sword Sky Sect Master was also a Emperor Swordsman, but his father wasn't. His father was once from the Sword Sky Sect and he was now from the. Furthermore, his identity was that of an elder from an ancient clan of the divine space. To be able to become an elder of an ancient clan, his strength was evident. As long as his father made a move, he would definitely be able to easily crush Long Fei. So what he needed to do was to wait. Waiting for his father to arrive. Waiting for his father to blast Long Fei to his knees before he swung his sword again to extinguish the fear in his heart. "Long Fei, just you wait. Song Xianhu laughed coldly in his heart. At night, everyone was cultivating. Long Fei was also cultivating. There were several times that he wanted to condense a sword of the emperor, but none of them succeeded. The emperor swordsman rank was like a shackle, unable to be broken through. This was completely different from his previous cultivation. He had never encountered any bottlenecks, but now he felt that it was difficult to move a single step. Huff! Long Fei's eyes slightly opened as he spat out a mouthful of impure qi. I still can't. Dragon Quang had also been paying close attention to Long Fei's progress in cultivation, and said, if spirit blood consumes too much energy, the later realms will be even more difficult for you. However, Master, the main thing is that if you break through, you will also receive more power. The more difficult it was, the stronger one's strength would be after breaking through. There was no doubt about that. Long Fei said, Long Quang, with my current speed, how long will it take for me to break through to the Emperor realm? Long Quangdao, I'm not sure, but it depends on you. You can break through in the next second, or you might not be able to do so even after 10 years. This is cultivation, especially after reaching your current state. He couldn't explain it clearly. Damn. Long Fei muttered, does this F*king want me to start killing and level up, directly going over levels? If you piss Lousy off, Lousy really will pass. If he failed to cultivate it, he would still have the system. A system for upgrading homicides. Did not use this pill even after such a long period of time. It was hard. However, compared to leveling up and killing, leveling up gave a little more EXP. And not too slow. Even faster. Long Fei said that he would use the system to kill people to level up, but in his heart, he had never thought of that. It was tough. Unable to break through? He wanted to get even with the others. Let me see what's going on with the king of Hen tribe. Once Long Fei entered the god's pavilion, she said excitedly, How is it? How is it? God's pavilion was a little impatient, do you want to do this? She has entered 6 times in a night, and she always asks how she is. Even if I had the powers to transcend the heavens, she wouldn't be able to do it this quickly even if she hadn't entered for a day. Long Fei. The king of Hen tribe's attraction towards Long Fei was just too strong. He had never had such strong expectations for anything. He wanted the king of Hen tribe to quickly take shape and wanted to know how strong this guy was. It was just that. The process of nurturing the god's pavilion's soul was a very long one. It was not something that could be accomplished in a day and a night. Long Fei laughed awkwardly, and said, I also want to know the progress at the first possible moment. God's pavilion said, Don't worry, I will inform you when she takes shape. You will know when the time comes. However, if she takes shape, I'm afraid. Long Fei asked, afraid of what? God's pavilion was silent for a moment, then said, I'm afraid he will be invincible. The god's pavilion was someone who had seen the world, at least, it was a divine object that had existed since the ancient times. How could an ancient master say such a thing? The god's pavilion was someone who had seen the world, at least, it was a divine object that had existed since the ancient times. How could an ancient master say such a thing? Moreover, he spoke very seriously. After careful deliberation. This showed how powerful the soul of the king of Hen tribe was. How awesome was that? It was hard to imagine. Long Fei started to laugh in his heart, that's a must, it's normal for king of Hen tribe to be so powerful and be invincible in this world. How long will it take for her to take form? Long Fei asked urgently. God's pavilion said, I really do not know. I can only say that I will do my best, and even if she takes form, there is a process like a child growing up. Long Fei replied, understood. Then it's all up to you. God's pavilion, from yesterday's resistance, contempt, to the respect now, said, I'm willing. Long Fei looked at the floating divine soul on top of God's pavilion, grinned, and said, I'll be waiting for you. And then, Long Fei left the god's pavilion. He turned around and went to number 1 room with Word Huang. There was no need to talk about the efficiency of this inn. Last night was still a corpse with fresh blood all over the ground. In less than a day, it was as if nothing had happened. Everything had been restored to its original position. Moreover, It was exactly the same as yesterday. More importantly, even if the god's extreme palace was exterminated, no one from the number 1 room with word Huang had come in before. There were many sects powerhouses and some busybodies outside who wanted to see what was happening inside. However, they couldn't even get in. As for the whereabouts of God's extreme palace's palace master Chen Shenbel, they were even less clear. However, others might not be clear about it, but Long Fei was clear about it. When he walked into the first yellow compound, Chen Shenbel immediately bowed at the door to welcome him. He bent his body slightly and placed both his hands on his abdomen, just like a maid in the palace. One day she changed. She wanted to live, but she hated Long Fei. But after one night, she could no longer hate him. Because Long Fei gave her a power she had never experienced before, one that she still had not been digested even now. Her cultivation had also increased from the 9th stage of the Sword Emperor realm to the 9th stage of the Peak realm. The time she had reached the peak, her heart was filled with incomparable shock. At the same time, she remembered what Long Fei had said before he left. She knew what Long Fei's thing contained. Therefore, the moment Long Fei stepped into the room, she immediately arrived. Long Fei looked at Chen Shenbel and said indifferently, "Lift your head." Chen Shenbel slowly raised his head. Compared to yesterday, his face was even brighter. This was the benefit of moisturizing. More importantly, today, she had changed into a new set of clothes, looking even more charming and revealing than the day before. A thin layer of gauze was draped over her body, and the scenery inside was faintly discernible. It was very obvious that she knew Long Fei's purpose in coming here. Long Fei said, "This year's clan congress seems to be a little different from previous years. This year there are a lot of Sword Emperor strongmen." Chen Shenbel said, "Each year is one small competition, and each year is one big competition. This year just happens to be 5 years, so the various large sects would send their strongest disciples to battle. Also, the divine space seems to be paying special attention to this year's clan congress, which makes the various large sects work even harder." Long Fei asked, "Does the divine space give special attention?" Chen Shenbel said, "According to my understanding, it's already very impressive when 3 to 5 divine space families appeared in the clan congress before. This year, there are at least 15 ancient families that will appear. It suddenly multiplied by several times. This was indeed very important." Long Fei asked, "Why is that?" "Logically speaking, those ancient clans in the divine space should not lack people, and those in the mortal world are worthless in their eyes." Chen Shenbel said, "I am also thinking about that. The divine space are all, any family would be able to easily destroy all the sects in the entire ancient world. Suddenly there are so many ancient families who are valuing the clan congress. There must be someone here. What's the problem? I sent someone to investigate on purpose. It is said that the divine space is about to battle. Fight for the god of boundary." Long Fei's pupils slightly tightened. A war for supremacy in the god of boundary? This Long Fei was not unfamiliar. The dragon had told him. God of boundary. In other words, the king of the ancient world, the most powerful of the paragons. Chen Shenbel thought that Long Fei did not know, and explained, "The emperor of the ancient world, the person with the highest authority." Long Fei said, "What does the war over the god of boundary have to do with us? We are just mortals. We are of no help to them." Chen Shenbel said, "War requires cannon fodder, we are cannon fodder, and even if they need us, but if you can stand out amongst the cannon fodder, then it would be a different story. Even if you are cannon fodder in the divine space, there are a lot of people who cannot beg for it. Who doesn't want to enter the divine space?" When she spoke, her eyes were bright. All her life, she had been pursuing the highest level of martial arts. All his life, he had wanted to enter the divine space. However, when Clan Congress lost that year, she had already lost the chance to enter the divine space. In the mortal world, a martial artist only had one chance. Long Fei looked at her and said, "You want to enter the divine space?" Chen Shenbel laughed bitterly and said, "Master, don't laugh at me. I know I can't enter." Not waiting for her to finish, Long Fei, who was on her back, flipped his hand, and a holy godhead appeared in it. The last time he killed the holy godhead that was exposed by the Dark Apostle. A sixth stage holy godhead. Seeing the divine spark, Chen Xianbel's pupils also contracted suddenly. His heart had almost reached his throat, and his hurried breathing had also immediately stopped. He stared at the divine spark in Long Fei's hand without moving as he said excitedly, God of heaven, holy godhead. Long Fei said, do you want it? Chen Xianbel did not try to conceal it and nodded strongly, saying, Mn. Long Fei said, join my ancient antiquity, and fight for my ancient antiquity. If you agree, this sixth stage holy godhead is yours. In addition, Chen Xianbel did not hesitate, and said, I agree. Without waiting for Long Fei to finish speaking, Chen Xianbel agreed. Without waiting for Long Fei to finish speaking, Chen Xianbel agreed. Sixth rank holy godhead. How many people couldn't even find such a thing? Right now, she was standing right in front of her. She did not even think about what kind of conditions Long Fei would put forward for her to immediately agree. Long Fei smiled slightly, and said, I agreed pretty readily. You can't be thinking of fusing with such a divine spark and killing me to avenge the god's extreme palace, right? Chen Xianbel agreed too quickly. Long Fei had no choice but to be suspicious. Chen Xianbel said, this servant will definitely not take revenge. This servant will be your person, and death is your ghost. Long Fei asked, then do you know that once you absorb the holy godhead, your cultivation will forever be fixed at the sixth stage god state, and will not be able to break through? The blend for godhead also meant that there would be no breakthroughs in the future. All his life, he had been at this level. Chen Xianbel nodded his head, and said, I know, but I know of my own inherent skill, being able to reach the peak of the ninth step is already your power, and I am unable to progress any further. If I have God's state, I can enter the divine space once in my life to see what is inside. Landscape, if I were to take a look at the world inside, it would be sufficient for me for the rest of my life. She was just like Fang Wampeng back then. She was unable to break through the God state. They could also not enter the divine space. For people like them, there was only one way, to fuse with Holy Godhead. This was the only way for them to break through. Chen Xianbel continued, and I know that a person who is able to take out a sixth-stage Holy Godhead, his strength is definitely not someone that a sixth-stage deity would be able to match up to. I wouldn't touch a stone with an egg. She was a smart woman. Long Fei looked at Chen Xianbel, and the corner of his mouth hooked up into an evil grin. Just one look. Chen Xianbel immediately understood what Long Fei wanted. He flipped over and directly sat on Long Fei's body. Another 2 hours passed. This time, Chen Xianbel immediately lied down on the bed, exhausted, unable to move. Long Fei got up, put on his clothes and placed his 6th-grade divine spark on the bed. He said indifferently, think about it carefully before making your decision. If you fuse with a Holy Godhead, then come to my Sky No. 1 courtyard. If it doesn't fuse, then you should stay here. After saying that, Long Fei did not stay any longer and left the No. 1 room with Word Huang. On the bed, Chen Xianbel, whose entire body was drenched in sweat, looked at the 6th-stage Holy Godhead. She was very excited, clenching his fist tightly in his palm. And then, he slowly got up from the bed and forcefully supported his exhausted body. The idea moved. He directly put the Holy Godhead into his mouth and started to fuse it. 6th-stage God state. Who in the mortal world could resist this temptation? Chen Xianbel could not. Even though she clearly understood the meaning of Long Fei's last sentence. Even if she did not fuse with a divine body, Long Fei would still bring her into the divine space. She wanted to become a god. She wanted to enter the divine space. Long Fei returned to the God No. 1 yard. Just as he was about to enter, he noticed Yunxi leaning on the doorpost, staring at Long Fei. He coldly said, "You went to No. 1 room with Word Huang again?" Long Fei looked at Yunxi and saw a trace of jealousy in her eyes. She couldn't help but take a step forward and pressed a hand on the doorpost as she gave an evil smile. "Are you monitoring me?" Long Fei pressed his body down. The distance between the two was less than 10 centimeters. They could hear each other's breathing. Moreover, Long Fei's evil smile made it difficult for him to breathe. Her face flushed red. Only not in the night. Yunshi calmed down and said, I am only reminding you, some women have thorns, and they are poisonous thorns. If you bump into them too much, you might lose your life. Long Fei said, all women have a thorn, but I am an expert at pulling out thorns. No matter how poisonous it is useless in front of me, let alone this. Your thorns won't let me touch them, so I can only go outside. Her voice was full of teasing. Yunshi's face became even redder, but his eyes were incomparably cold, as if he wanted to kill Long Fei. But in his heart, he thought, how do you know that I won't let you touch me? Long Fei continued, last time, I lost a bet. You should have stayed with me for an entire night now, otherwise I would have touched the thorns on your body to see if they were poisonous. The two of them made a bet. Long Fei's cultivation did not break through the Emperor Swordsman rank, which meant that Long Fei had lost. Yunshi had won back the whole night, but she was not happy at all. Yunshi glared at Long Fei and said, the thorns on my body are not poisonous, When he said it, Yunshi felt that he said the wrong thing. Long Fei laughed sinisterly, does that mean I can touch it? He closed in once again. Their bodies were about to touch. Yunshi also continuously retreated, his body tightly leaning on the doorpost. He turned his face to the side, and didn't dare to look Long Fei straight in the eyes, so he couldn't help but close his eyes. Her heart was like a little deer. It was jumping around randomly and she couldn't control it at all. But she waited for half a minute, but she did not wait for Long Fei's next move. When she opened her eyes, she found that Long Fei had already entered the courtyard. Yunshi ran up a few steps. You. Long Fei waved his hand, and said, tonight, you're too tired, so I won't pull any thorns from your body. Next time. Tired? Would not be tired even after another 300 rounds. Long Fei did not know what ancient dragon body's body meant by tired. However, he did not like the resistance of women. If it was a woman he liked, he wouldn't even touch her if he wasn't willing. Yunshi watched Long Fei's figure slowly disappear, and for some reason, her tears flowed down. Covering her mouth with one hand, she sobbed softly, fool, do you know that this is your last chance? Woo woo woo. He squatted down and burst into tears. In the distance, a figure floated in the night, like a dragonfly touching the water lightly. A figure landed behind Yunshi and said gently, Miss, let's go. His body was suffused with a divine light. This was the power of a god of heaven realm warrior. Yunshi stopped crying. The servant girl behind him said, how can a man from the mortal world be worthy of you? He's not worthy at all, only young Master Gu. Without waiting for her to finish speaking, Yunshi's eyes suddenly froze, he turned and stared at her, and immediately slapped her. Maid did not dare to dodge. A slap landed on her face. It was extremely painful. She immediately lowered her head and didn't dare to say another word. In the future, if you dare to say such words again, be careful of your life. Yunshi had completely changed her demeanor. At this moment, she turned around, and her gaze returned to that kind of gentleness. The one who is doing this is me. He's the best man in the world. But Yunshi did not continue, and the last tear fell from the corner of his eye. She did not wipe it. Only when the tears rolled down her face and fell to the ground did Yunshi slowly turn around and leave. Early morning. Early morning. The streets were in an uproar. From clan congress's beginning, the streets were crowded in one direction. Heaven's path mountain. God's material ground. The head moved, bustling with noise and excitement. The disciples of the various sects were all gathered on the street, holding up various sect flags. Colorful flags fluttered in the streets and alleyways, making a lot of noise while discussing. Who will be the champion this year? Of course, Sword Sky Sect. The strength of the Sword Sky Sect is there for all to see. Who can move against him? To be number one in the sect for the next 10 years, that is what is meant by foundation, and that is what is meant by strength. This year, Song Xianhu was heavily injured by the mysterious man, and I think he will not be able to go on stage. Indeed, Song Xianhu is one of the strongest disciples of the Sword Sky Sect. Without Song Xianhu, There are still a few other monsters in Sword Sky Sect that are not inferior to Song Xianhu. This year's Zone is also not bad. Sigh. If only the people from God's Extreme Palace were here, then I could have a look at Shenbel's beautiful face. What a pity. I heard that this year, the Divine Space paid special attention to the Clan Congress, and it seems that there are more than 10 ancient families here to choose their disciples. Yes, I heard that too. It's a pity that I can't go on stage. If I was chosen by the Divine Space Powerhouse, then I would have skyrocketed in one leap. With just you. Don't take a piss and look at yourself. Everyone knew that ancient family of the Divine Space had come to pick disciples now. This was undoubtedly a heavenly good news for the sects. No matter what the disciples selected by the Divine Space Powerhouse were doing, as long as they could enter the Divine Space, it would be a type of glory, and it would also be a powerful boost to the sect's strength. This year, you must perform well. No matter who it is, show me your strongest strength. Maybe you all will be chosen by the Divine Space Powerhouse, understand? Right now, you represent not only yourselves, but most of the sects as well. If you are selected, you will ascend to the sky in one step and the power of the sects will rise as well. I must do my best. I don't care what methods you use, be it despicable, sinister, or despicable. In short, you have to win, only the more you win, will the powerhouse of the Divine Space see it. This world is the world of the powerhouse, no one would covet the weak, as long as you win one more battle, you guys will have one more chance to be selected, understand? Regardless of whether it is the Sword Sky Sect or Zone, this time the Clan Congress will decide your fate. You can either step into the Divine Space and become a god, or forever hide in this mortal world and slowly die of old age. You only have one goal, and that is to be chosen by the Divine Space Powerhouse. All the elders of the various sects went crazy. If a disciple were to enter the Divine Space, they would also be able to obtain many benefits. Sect-level power levels would all rise. God number 1 Yard. Brothers of 5 elements, Bailey Tianhai, Zhao Dehan, Phoenix, and 5 other outer court disciples were waiting in the courtyard. Long Fei frowned. Why isn't Yunxi back yet? Where did she go? Everyone shook their heads, indicating that they didn't know. When Long Fei thought about last night, his heart secretly shivered as he felt that something had happened. It was impossible for Yunxi to throw herself into his arms. She had already prepared everything last night, but she herself had not taken a step further. The waiter ran into the yard, panting as he said, "Sir, I couldn't find it. I've searched for all possible places, but I didn't see the person you were looking for." Bailey Tianhai asked, "Big brother, where are we going?" Zhao Dehan said, "Could she have gone to the god's material ground first?" Wu Hua said, "It shouldn't be, you must know that our god number 1 Yard has a teleportation circle, there is no need to go at all, we can teleport there directly." Where did that go? At this critical juncture, why is it gone? Everyone began to panic. Phoenix looked at the secret lock between Long Fei's brows and said, "My darling, why don't I help you find big sister Yunxi first?" Long Fei shook his head, and said, "Forget it, maybe it's like what Big Sis said, she'll be leaving first. If a woman wants to hide, you will never find her." After thinking about what happened last night, Long Fei felt that he should have left. Even if Long Fei found her, he wouldn't be able to stop her even if she wanted to leave. However, Long Fei was a little depressed in his heart. Even if he wanted to leave, he had to give a reason. He was somewhat unhappy in his heart. Everything had been arranged, but now there was one less person. Bailey Tianhai said, "Big brother, what do we do if we lose one person?" The numbers had originally been arranged to be just right, with each individual competing, but now there were fewer people. Long Fei said, "If there's really no other way, then I'll go up." Without waiting for Long Fei to finish, there was a person standing at the entrance to the courtyard. Shenbel. She wore a light blue dress and held a purple longsword in her hand. Her body was rippling with divine light and her aura was completely different. Like a fairy. There was no coldness like that of the God's Extreme Palace's palace master, nor was there any haughty and aloof expression. Instead, she looked just like an ordinary girl. She stood by the door and said, "If possible, I can replace you." Shenbel came. She had integrated with a sixth stage holy godhead. She had made up her mind before coming. Right now, she was a sixth-stage deity and had the ability to escape Long Fei's demon claw, but she still didn't have it. Furthermore, it was just as Long Fei had said, she had come to the ancient antiquity to join them. The gazes of Bailey Tianhai and the brothers of five elements darkened as they were captivated by Qian Xianbel's beauty. Long Fei looked at Qian Xianbel and said, "All right, then you." Bailey Tianhai immediately asked, "Boss, who is this?" They did not know Qian Xianbel. Long Fei replied, "He used to be God's Extreme Palace's Asgard master, but he is now ancient antiquity's disciple." Her. Everyone's gaze turned grim. Everyone looked at Long Fei, and on the spot, Bailey Tianhai gave Long Fei a big thumbs up, and said, "Boss, you're truly amazing. To be able to get the God's Extreme Palace's palace master to join them, is this something that an ordinary person can do?" At the same time, they also knew that this woman was the boss. Long Fei said, "Now that everyone is here, let's go to God's material ground." Everyone walked towards the teleportation formation. With a flash of white light, they disappeared from the one heavenly courtyard. The waiter's eyes narrowed. In an instant, Xian Ming Abyss landed, said lightly, and said, "She's gone?" The waiter said, "Ian, all of you have gone to the God's material ground." "Master, are we not going to make a move?" Xian Ming Abyss laughed. "No rush, this year's clan congress is especially interesting. To think that there would be so many ancient family here to recruit disciples. Even trash families like them want to compete with my Xians for the god of boundary. He's simply courting death. First, use the Long family to deal with them." Xian Ming Abyss wasn't in a hurry at all. Before the clan congress ends, he has plenty of time. The God's material ground was packed. The God's material ground was packed. The entire heavenly Dao city had squeezed their way here. There were thousands upon thousands of sects in the ancient world, and each sect had around a dozen or 20 people present. The human heads at the scene moved, forming a ball. Using the words from his previous life, if one was not careful, it was possible to get pregnant. It was extremely crowded. However, this was only for the disciples of the lower sects. The appearance of the top sects would not be like this. When they appeared, several elder-level powerhouses would lead the way. All of the Sword Emperor strongmen released their auras, and even in the crowded streets, they would instantly shake the ground and clear a path for themselves. It's Aotian Zong. Wow. A sect with power ranked in the top 10. Look at their heads, God's Eagle. They did not send out any clan elders to lead the way, they only sent out God's Eagle, the incomparably huge one floating above Pan Xian's head. One of the Beast Master Elder idea moved. Immediately, dozens of God's Eagles screamed at the same time. Wow! The crowd on the road instantly crouched down, their hands holding onto their ears, unable to withstand the God's Eagle's sound waves attacks, and all of them lay prostrated on the ground, trembling in fear. Aotian Zong's face was full of contempt. They were half a meter off the ground, walking on the air, step by step walking towards the entrance of God's material ground. From afar, it looked like they were stepping on someone else's head. This scene was extremely arrogant. However, no one dared to complain in the slightest. Because Aotian Zong was very strong. In this world, the strong preyed on the weak. If you weren't strong enough, you would be stepped on by others. Not stepping on your head is already enough to give you face. Many sects directly trampled on people, and every year when they entered the arena, they would kill people. F***CK. This Aotian Zong sure has a lot of cards. Wu Hua said with disdain. Should we call our giant rock over? Destroy these God's Eagle-s immediately. Long Fei and the rest of the 10 over people were here via teleportation circle, but they were able to teleport away quickly. The transfer array couldn't directly enter the scene, it still needed to pass through a long passage. And this passage was filled with people. A middle-ranking sect like the ancient antiquity simply didn't have the qualifications to enter early, and could only squeeze into the crowd. Zhao Dahan also responded, "That's right, call the ancient giant rock over and kill all of these God's Eagle. Let's see how arrogant he is then." Only 1 in 1,000 years. If all of them were to die, then Zong would be in for it. However, Long Fei shook his head and said, "Forget it. The Blood Abyss sect has arrived." Boom. A bloody mist covered the sky. In an instant, it covered the entire tunnel. His line of sight was obstructed by the blood mist, and he could not see what was in front of him. However, a series of whistling sounds could be heard from above his head. Whirla. Whirla. It was just like the sound of space tearing. A whistling sound could be heard as a man wearing a blood-red robe landed on the ground. It took away a large amount of blood mist. When all of the disciples landed on the ground, the bloody mist dispersed as well. They were all wearing long, bloody robes, and each disciple had a trail of blood between their eyebrows. Their eyes were glowing with a bloody light. The Blood Abyss sect was the Devil sect. It is the strongest devil sect in the ancient world, ranked 3rd in power. This year, the Blood Abyss sect's strength might go up a notch, and Song Xianhu's serious injuries allowed them to have the chance to take first place. Qian Xianbel said, "This year, the Blood Abyss sect has produced a few demon-like disciples, and I heard that one of them is the reincarnation of the divine space powerhouse, someone extremely powerful. Inherent skill, your cultivation is not any weaker than Song Xianhu's. Song Xianhu is crippled, and the Blood Abyss sect is this year's champion." Bailey Tianhai said slightly, "I noticed earlier, every single disciple who went over had cultivation in the Emperor Swordsman rank. 2 of them were in the Emperor Swordsman. Their bodies gave off a strange aura. They should be the reincarnated powerhouse." The corner of Long Fei's mouth lifted slightly, and said, "Interesting. All sorts of powerful disciples." It far exceeded Long Fei's expectations. The various sects were fully focused on the clan congress. The top sects were entering the stage one by one, and all sorts of fancy scenes were appearing, each one more cool than the last, each one more cool than the last. They were all very pretentious. One had to know that this was showing off, and also a display of strength. The top 100 sects entered the arena. Now it was the low-level sects' turn to enter. However, at this moment, a loud sound exploded in the sky. Rumble. 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 Space seemed to tear apart. Along with the loud sound, divine light rippled and golden light ripples spread out. The sky was covered with divine light, and the entire scene was as if a miracle had occurred. Seeing such a scene, the 100 Herbs sect, elders, and sect head all stood up in unison with faces full of respect. What did the divine light mean? Divine space god's powerhouse. Only the god's powerhouse could release such a divine light, and such a powerful divine light was definitely above the 6th stage of the divine spirit realm. They did not dare to disrespect him. Let alone the god's powerhouse, even if it wasn't a god state, as long as it was a person from the divine space, they wouldn't dare to disrespect it. Because any one of the divine space could easily destroy them. He couldn't afford to offend him. Buzz. The divine light exploded and fell down heavily. It landed on the main road. In an instant, dozens of disciples were crushed into a bloody mess and died on the spot. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. A bunch of ants. On an open sedan chair, a young man wearing gorgeous clothes laughed out loud. As he watched the blood and flesh flying everywhere, he became incomparably excited. In front of the sedan chair, 4 people were kneeling. Each had a chain around his neck. Dazzling light was also being emitted from their bodies. It was just that. It was completely different from the divine light emitted by the young man on the palanquin. Their expressions were also different. They had wooden expressions. It was like being a slave. The important thing was, they were mortals from the ancient world. They were still wearing their sect clothes before entering the divine space. Sword Art sect. The Sky sect. Are they the people who have entered the divine space in the mortal world? Become a slave by entering the divine space? This Empyrean god is too hateful. He killed so many people in an instant. Who told him to be the god of heaven? Look at the sects of those dead disciples. Who dares to make a sound? Not to mention making a sound, I might even want to kneel in front of him and kowtow. Look at those 4 mortals. Although they are slaves, they are also slaves of the gods, and they are at the very least powerhouses of the divine space. Let alone slaves, even a dog in the divine space is stronger than us. In the eyes of the divine space's powerhouse, everything was trash. After killing so many people, no one dared to make a sound. Who would dare? Who dared to take revenge on the divine space powerhouse? They would be courting death if they dared to take revenge on them. In the ancient world, the people of the divine space were gods. In the ancient world, the people of the divine space were gods. It was a god that could not be attacked. Do not be rebellious. No blasphemy. A god that did not dare to be disrespectful in the slightest. Even if they killed people and viewed humans as ants and treated humans as toys, no one would dare to make a sound because they were gods. The difference between a person and a god was like the difference between heaven and earth. Even if they saw God's man trampling on humans, it didn't seem like any of the sect masters or the surrounding disciples of the top 100 sects had seen it. F***ck. Too fucking cruel. What kind of god is this? Zhao Dahan spoke with a straightforward personality. Long Fei had seen this kind of thing too many times, but the god's powerhouse treated these humans as human beings, which made him feel very bad. Both of his eyes were gloomy as he stared at God's man. Phoenix's face was also filled with anger. God's man swept his eyes across the entire audience and laughed out loud. Look at all of you, you're all trash, a group of trash. What can you bunch of trash do after entering the divine space? What use is your talent? Humans. Hee hee. I'm afraid it's the most lacking race. God's man was fiercely looking down on him. While they were talking, with a move of his right hand, he immediately grabbed a magic strap and whipped it into the air, heavily smashing it onto the body of a slave kneeling in front of his beloved son. Pa. When the magic strap made a sound, its skin split open and its flesh lacerated. A huge crack appeared on the back of the sword technique sect elder, but he did not frown. He kneeled on the ground and crawled forward step by step. The other three also knelt on the ground and crawled forward step by step. The man on the pride level laughed, and also whipped himself crazily. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Trash, trash. No one dared to make a sound. No one dared to stop him. Even. No one dared to look directly at him. The god's man was arrogant, so arrogant that it was a mess. The magic strap in his hand continued to smoke happily. Even humans, this group of trash, can survive in this world. It's all trash. When the ancient world was born, you ants shouldn't have appeared. Staying in this world would be a waste of resources. Ha ha ha. The magic strap moved, and then shook. The magic strap swept out, and was just a few steps away from injuring her. Phoenix's eyes did not blink. She had no fear. However, just at this moment, Long Fei's footsteps slightly moved, his right hand moved as he grabbed onto the magic strap. He exploded forth with his strength. Boom boom boom. The divine light exploded. Long Fei's palm was burning hot, and was in incomparable pain, as if countless steel needles were piercing his palm. Although it was painful, but he still stopped the magic strap. Moreover, Long Fei said lightly, "Don't hurt my woman." Holding the whip in his hand, he didn't let go. The magic strap was suddenly pulled, the center of God's man's brows tightened. With a glance, he stared straight at Long Fei. At the same time, the surroundings went into an uproar. They were all blaming Long Fei in low voices. "Brat, what are you trying to do? Brat, is there water in your brain? Brat, do you know who he is? Hurry up and let go. Are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing now? To offend an Empyrean god?" The consequences were unimaginable. It wasn't just Long Fei who was going to suffer, they were also going to suffer as well. At this moment, many sect masters jumped out and heavily criticized Long Fei. All of them acted as if they had enmity with Long Fei for murdering their father. Zhao Dahan took a step forward, and said with a heavy voice, "He's scolding us for being trash, scolding us for being trash. You're still speaking up for him even after killing so many people. Do you guys still have backbone? Do you guys still have any sense of shame? Kid, could it be that what Lord God of Heaven said is wrong? Are you a match for the Lord God of Heaven? Are you a match for the divine space powerhouse? You are not, you are not anything, so in the divine space powerhouse's eyes, we are obviously trash, and perhaps you're wrong? So what if we kill a few people? Just then, those 10+ people blocked Lord Empyrean God from landing. This is a capital offense. That's right, he deserved it. Do you understand? All of them scolded Long Fei and the others harshly. Long Fei smirked and laughed coldly. Slave. Everyone's gaze turned grim. God's man laughed out loud and said, "You're right, she is truly a slave. This is reality, do you understand? I am an Empyrean god, and I am your ruler. Mortal beings like you are only fit to be enslaved by us, only fit to be trampled by us." Ha ha ha. Zhao Dahan said loudly, "That's them, we're different." The god's man looked at Zhao Dahan and said, "So you're saying, you dare to go against our god?" As soon as he finished, the entire scene was extremely depressing. They all looked at Zhao Dahan and shook their heads. They were all afraid. Zhao Dahan asked, "So what if you are a god? I have never taken you gods seriously." His voice was like a bomb. Everyone started to tremble. God's man's gaze also slightly tightened as he stared coldly at Zhao Dahan, and said indifferently, "As long as I say the word, you will immediately die." His words carried a strong killing intent. Zhao Dahan said, "Am I scared?" "You're courting death," God's man shouted loudly. At this moment, out of the 4 kneeling slaves on the ground, one of the chains on their neck loosened as they rushed towards Zhao Dahan like a crazy wolf. Divine light was being released. The pressure was like the heavens. Zhao Dahan's state of mind was instantly crushed. His face turned pale and he was unable to move. Even though Zhao Dahan had outstanding talent, his cultivation was still in the Emperor Swordsman rank. The difference in levels was too great. He was not a match at all. Sky-confining claw. With a loud roar, a giant claw appeared on top of Zhao Dahan's head. The claw cut through space and was about to swallow Zhao Dahan whole. Qian Xianbel looked at Long Fei. Long Fei's eyes moved slightly. They did not want Qian Xianbel to make a move. His right arm sank. Crack. The sound of metal striking metal rang out. The infinite boxing was in his hands. The talons in the air clashed. Boom. Bam. The sky rumbled, and the sharp claws shattered. The slave kept on retreating, his hand grabbing the ground, causing the ground to crack. He glared at Long Fei, not waiting for him to make a move. The magic strap in God's man's hands lashed out with its whip, useless thing. At the same time, the chains of the other 3 slaves loosened, and the 3 of them simultaneously struck out. The 3 of them rushed towards Long Fei. Long Fei's body sank, and activated all of his different types of powers. With a heavy grip of his right hand, he charged forward. Bam! 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 The explosive force of 3 punches continuously blasted out. 3 explosive sounds. The 3 slaves were immediately blasted away. They were all severely injured, but they didn't show it. This made God's man very unhappy. He suddenly stood up, stared blankly at Long Fei, and said, "You have some strength. However, today, you must die." God's man was already angry. God's man was already angry. To be able to overthrow his slave in front of so many people, this was not giving him any face at all. Who would dare to blaspheme against the might of an Empyrean god? Anger boiled in his heart. "You bastard, you must die today." With that said, the pressure from God's man's body dropped like the sky, and directly crushed towards Long Fei. All of a sudden, divine light surged and thunder rumbled. The color of the sky and the earth changed, and the power was abnormally strong. The power of the God of Heaven was still the power of the God of Heaven, and it was even more powerful in this mortal world. Many of the surrounding sect disciples were so frightened that they immediately prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to move. Bailey Tianhai, Lu Zun, brothers of 5 elements, and a group of people gathered around Long Fei. Long Fei's eyes narrowed. "I die? Today, we shall see who dies." Once his bad temper flared, Long Fei didn't care that much. He couldn't allow anyone to act arrogantly in front of him. Seeing the God's man releasing the God's power, Long Fei shouted in his heart, and was about to release the power of the ancient dragon body. It was also at this time. Suddenly, a voice sounded. "Stop." A middle-aged man landed. With a sweep of his sleeve, he directly scattered the power released from God's man's body. Long Fei's pupils tightened. This middle-aged man's strength. The power of the God's man was easily repelled. This power. It was incomparably terrifying. God's man was angered and was about to release an even stronger power. However, when he saw the word Shen embroidered on the middle-aged man's chest, his mind trembled and he immediately withdrew his strength. His body descended and retreated to the side as he said, "My lord." Not waiting for him to speak, the middle-aged man lightly said, "Today is clan congress, so I would like to ask both of you to give me some face, and please calm down. Even if there is a grudge, we can settle it at clan congress. What do you think?" Who was this middle-aged man? Shen Ming Abyss. It was precisely the word profound on his robes that made God's man retract his power. No matter how arrogant and wild he was, he would not dare to be cocky in front of the people from Shen's. Shen's is a super hegemon in the divine space. The Shen's was even more of a powerhouse at the peak of the divine space, and was even more so the person with the most power in this battle of God of boundary. Who would dare to openly oppose the Shen's? Who dared to not give Shen's face? The God's man was not stupid, he was very clear about the consequences of provoking the Shen's. Thus, God's man looked coldly at Long Fei, and said in a heavy voice, "Brat, I'll spare your little life first, but I'll take your life after I reach clan congress." Finished. He left with heavy steps and walked into the god's material ground. Just because of a single sentence from the middle-aged man, the man in the sky had given him face? Was this the dignity that an Empyrean god should have? Long Fei was a little confused. You have to understand that this middle-aged man in front of you does not have the slightest bit of divine light on him, nor is he a powerhouse of the divine space. The surrounding people had stupefied expressions. What was going on? It was completely unimaginable. Shen Ming Abyss hugged his hands, politely smiled at Long Fei, and then left. He did not want to get to know her. "Boss, what's the situation?" "He knows you. Who is this person? What right did the heavenly man have to give him face? Damn, this guy is awesome." When the brothers of 5 elements saw Shen Ming Abyss turning around to leave, all of them became suspicious. Bailey Tianhai also did not understand. "Big brother, who is he?" Long Fei shook his head. "I don't, but I am sure that this guy is stronger than normal." "Huh?" Zhao Dahan asked. "Is it strong?" "I can't tell." Long Fei did not explain. He could feel that just now, Shen Ming Abyss had easily dispersed the power that the heavenly godman had released. This power was at least several realms higher than the heavenly godman's, otherwise, it would have been impossible to do. Strength was one thing. The other point was his identity. Even though the man's cultivation level was not as high as the middle-aged man's, with his temper, he would not let the man go so easily. However, with a single word from the man, he immediately left. His identity definitely wasn't ordinary. Long Fei watched Shen Ming Abyss's leaving figure, and his brows secretly tightened. The aura on this guy's body. It's kind of familiar. For some reason, Long Fei felt a familiar aura from the middle-aged man. It was just that. For a moment, he couldn't remember. When the phoenix saw Shen Ming Abyss leaving, her forehead slightly wrinkled for a moment. Then, it looked at Long Fei as its small hand gently clenched. Long Fei thought for a while, but was unable to think of who it was, nor did he think about it, and said, "Enter first." "Lord, why did you stop him just now?" The waiter did not understand why Shen Ming Abyss wanted to stop the heavenly man from fighting. Logically speaking, God's powerhouse should be allowed to test Long Fei's skill, and only then would it be easy to deal with. Shen Ming Abyss smiled faintly, and said, "You think this pussy is his match? If anyone could kill the people of the dragon race, then the dragon race would not have survived in ancient world for so many years." The waiter was still puzzled. Shen Ming Abyss continued to speak. "I didn't want Long Fei to expose his identity by stopping that pustule, and fighting that pus would inevitably expose his identity as a dragon. It's clan congress today. The show should be slowly playing out. Xian Ming Abyss did not want this show to end prematurely. He still wanted to play slowly. The waiter seemed to understand a little. He then reported to Xian Ming Abyss, "Master, our dark god tribe has sent 10 disciples to fight. Their cultivations are all above the 6th level of the Sword Emperor." Xian Ming Abyss smiled faintly and said, "Amen, I just told them not to go all out. They just need to get in the top 3. The waiter nodded, "I understand, I will follow your instructions." "Right. Master, the Sword Sky Sect's sect master has arrived. Song Xianhu's father, Song Guqing, is also here." This information was not a big problem for Dark God Tribe. The mortal world might not know, but the ancient families in the divine space knew that the Dark God Tribe was the power of the Xians. Feng family? Demon Sealing clan? The old family has already withered to an unrecognizable state. A mere mortal can become a family elder. This demon sealer race has truly gone too far. The corner of Xian Ming Abyss's mouth revealed a look of contempt. The Xians was too strong. They had dominated the majority of the resources of the divine space. Be it the ancient power, or cultivation resources, or an alliance with the outer space powerhouse, the Xians was the only power. The war on the divine space was on the verge of breaking out. These were all because some of the ancient clans were fighting with their lives on the line, fighting with all of them for the qualifications to fight for the god of boundary. As for the Xians, there was no need to fight for it. The position of Xians was something that had to be obtained no matter what. It was just that. Xians still had 2 things to do. They had obtained Long Baishan's corpse and Zhentian Stone's S. The other was Long Fei's life. The various sects entered the stage one after another. Long Fei and the others entered the god's material ground. This was the first time they had come here, and upon entering, including Long Fei, everyone's expressions were stunned by God's material ground. It could only be described with one word: big. He couldn't see the end of it. It was an extremely plain and spacious plaza. As far as the martial ground was concerned, it was enormous. At the same time, there was a strange aura burning within the martial ground. There was killing intent, martial chi, and also a strong sword aura. Chen Shenbel said, "This is the martial ground that was carved out by a powerhouse during the great battle of the past." Standing at the foot of the mountain might not seem like it will be big, but in reality, the area here is also not that big. But there is a strange array formation in this martial ground. Normally, in the entire secret world, no array master has ever been able to break it. I don't even know where the array core is. Everyone here will feel excited and their cultivation level will increase by 20%, but it's also very easy to lose one's mind. If you're not careful, you will lose yourself. Whether it's fighting here, alchemy, or inscriptions, all of you have to be careful. Chen Shenbel had come to the god's material ground many times, so she understood the god's material ground a little. Bailey Tianhai was slightly taken aback, then said, "He slashed out a secret world with a sword, and even brought his own formation. What kind of power is this? Wow! I can feel my blood burning right now. This feels so good." Zhao Dahan became excited. The brothers of 5 elements were also excited. Long Fei looked at God's material ground and said faintly, "This strike is really strong." He closed his eyes. At this moment, it was as if the sound of thousands of men fighting could be heard. It was also like the sound of 10,000 swords ringing out, and also like the sky splitting apart. Long Quang said, "This is the sword strike from the Heavenly Sword Emperor. He is also a pinnacle figure in the ancient times like Master, but he sought for swords wholeheartedly and eventually cultivated himself into a sword. He is known as the Emperor of the Heavenly Sword, and is the strongest sword powerhouse in the ancient world. His sword contains too many things: formation, sword energy, killing intent. All sorts of ways to live, all sorts of feelings and grudges between life and death are present here. Some people say that his sword is life. You are completely unable to block this sort of sword technique. Even if it's you, Master, if you were to compete in swords with him, you would lose by half a point." Long Fei's heart trembled. The Emperor of the Heavenly Sword. Where is he? Long Guangdao, it disappeared. There were rumors about him dying because of love. Some people said he retreated, and some people said he went to a foreign land. In the past few trillion years, there has never been any news of him, so he shouldn't be in this world anymore. What a pity. It's such a pity that this powerhouse died. Long Fei sighed. Long Quang also said, it's a pity. He's the sword emperor of his generation, the one with the highest attainments in the way of the sword, and he just disappeared like that. What a pity. Long Fei laughed. What he said was a pity that was completely different from what Long Quang said. His pity was, if a boss like this just disappeared like that, how much damage would that be? This type of boss was a top boss. If they killed it, they would drop it. Long Fei opened his eyes, looked at the god's material ground, and muttered, the emperor of the heavenly sword just doesn't know where his sword is at. Long Fei sat down. Beside him were a few mid-ranked sects. However, these sects maintained a distance of 3 meters away from Long Fei, because they did not want to be mistaken as people of the ancient antiquity. With so many people around, how could they possibly end up like this? Long Fei and the rest were also happy to be free. In the distance, Lei Xiao pointed to Long Fei's group and said, Senior brother, that's the one who injured the immortal fox. Sword Sky Sect Lord, 10,000 swords. The old man with a white beard. There was no aura on his body, as if he didn't exist at all. His sword intent had even reached an invisible level. Song Xianhu was his direct disciple. Song Xianhu's invisible sword world had also been created because of his influence. Who would have thought that their own direct disciple would be crippled by a brat at the 9th level of the King Swordsman? Humph. He harumphed coldly. Lei Xiao said, Senior brother, everything has been arranged. As long as it's their people who appear, they will definitely launch a group attack. We must teach them a lesson. Wn Jian said indifferently, let them all die. Lei Xiao nodded and said, understood. We definitely won't let them live. Aotianzong. The white-clothed man recognized Long Fei at first glance and said to the elder beside him, Master, it's him. He was the one who killed my mount last time. The old man also had a sinister look in his eyes as he stared coldly in the direction of ancient antiquity Long Fei. The disciple in green said, yes, them. The old man said indifferently, a mere low-rank sect actually dares to go against us, Aotianzong? Even if the Sword Sky sect didn't say anything, this group of trash would all die here. The white-clothed disciple asked, Master, do you think Song Xianhu is really crippled by them? Song Xianhu's cultivation is at the Emperor Swordsman. If you can cripple him, then his cultivation is so. The old man said, don't worry, in God's material ground, even the strongest expert will have to lie on the ground. Do you know why Sword Sky sect has always been the strongest sect? This is because it has the backing of an ancient clan. It seems to be some ancient demon sealing clan. With this big tree, whoever is killed by the Sword Sky sect's 10,000 swords will have to die. But I never thought that Lei Xiao would actually issue a killing order. This bunch of brats have finally come to their end of life. The order to kill. The Sword Sky sect was serious now. Any sect, any disciple, and any sect who confronted someone from the ancient antiquity would have to go all out, and fight with all their might, even if they couldn't win against the opponent. He even fought with his life on the line. Otherwise, he would be seen as an enemy of the Sword Sky sect if he did not try his best. He wanted ancient antiquity to die. This was just the clan congress. When the convention ends, the disaster of ancient antiquity will begin. After destroying Song Xianhu, the Sword Sky sect would definitely not let him off. Qian Xianbel said, Sword Sky sect should have issued the absolute order. Long Fei's mouth hooked up, and said, the absolute order. Hee. This is to have all the sects come and deal with us. Qian Xianbel said, not only that, there is a high possibility that a god's powerhouse will fight. Long Fei frowned, God's powerhouse? Zhao Dahan said, no matter how much you come here, we are not afraid. Besides, our strength has not been revealed. Brothers of 5 elements also revealed an expression of high fighting spirit. Fighting? They never did. Long Fei looked at Qian Xianbel and laughed. They have God's powerhouse, But don't we have them too? Phoenix giggled and said, my darling, why don't I join the battle as well? Beat them all to the ground and see who dares to bully you. Long Fei said, you can just watch by the side, don't cause trouble. Phoenix fought. Then, it would turn into a mess. I am Lei Xiao, Sword Sky Sect's Vice Sect Leader. I am Lei Xiao, Sword Sky Sect's Vice Sect Leader. Today, I will be presiding over Clan Congress. It's the same as the previous years. The middle and low-level sects will compete first, and those who qualify will enter the next round. This year is different from the previous years. This year, many adults of the divine space have come, so I hope that all of you can come out and compete with me, as your performance will determine whether or not you can enter the divine space. Good luck. Lei Xiao said a few words on the stage. It was also at this time. Lei Xiao flung his sleeves. Immediately, several hundred alchemy stages appeared on the entire god's material ground. It was as though a deity had transformed into a human. Long Fei was extremely shocked. Seeing the alchemy stage appear one after another, he could not help but say, this secret world is rather interesting. Qian Xianbel said, this was previously set up. In order to save space, alchemy ended up with formations, artifact forging, talisman, beast taming. The last part is a competition of fighting strength, which is also the finale. Long Fei nodded. He could feel the aura from the god's material ground. Zhong Xian shuddered. The aura emitted from his alchemy was extremely strong, and even those who did not know alchemy could feel the power of his alchemy. Qian Xianbel said, this martial ground is very special, it can raise everyone's potential and also let Divine Space Powerhouse have a better look. Long Fei sensed the aura around him. To him, the power of his alchemy was not stronger by even a little bit, but rather much stronger. Is this also the power of the Emperor of the Heavenly Sword? If one were to say that the sword energy was extremely powerful, that would be reasonable. However, all of this is very powerful. Could it be that this guy is all-powerful? It was also at this time. Long Fei looked at Brothers of Five Elements. Wu Hua walked out with an excited smile and said, I'm going. He focused on the alchemy. Of the 5 elements, Wu Hua was the most suitable for using the alchemy. Following the appearance of the alchemy stages on the god's material ground, the disciples of the various sects all landed and found the alchemy stages that belonged to their own sects. Wu Hua also found the alchemy terrace that belonged to the ancient antiquity. It was a very remote corner, one that one wouldn't be able to see if one didn't pay careful attention. According to the sect's ranking, the ancient antiquity should not be a remote place like this. As long as it was a competition of alchemy, the position wasn't important. Wu Hua did not mind. However, when he arrived at his own alchemy stage, he discovered that the aura there had changed. It was as if he had walked into a huge gravitational space. His body felt like it had suddenly become hundreds of times heavier, and his movements immediately slowed down. Not only that, in this space, he could not sense the slightest bit of alchemy, which was the additional effect of the god's material ground's power. Wu Hua's brows tightened, and said loudly, Master, there's a problem with my alchemy stage, gravity. Lei Xiao didn't pay any attention to him and directly rebuked him angrily. If you feel that there's a problem, you can give up, and don't waste everyone's time. Understood. Wu Hua said, this alchemy stage of mine is really... How dare you? Lei Xiao berated angrily, all the alchemy stages here are the same. If you feel that yours is different, you should give up on this competition. Don't leave the shit in the latrine. As soon as he finished. On stage, everyone below the stage began to laugh loudly. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. They were both the same stage in the alchemy, so was he different? I think he's scared. Exactly. From the looks of it, he definitely doesn't know alchemy. Many people began to mock him. Bailey Tianhai said slightly, Wu Hua has been targeted. Long Fei was not shocked at all, and said, I understand. Zhao Dahan said, it's definitely the Sword Sky Sect's doing, they set up the location. Long Fei said, it's them, Wu Hua has no other choice now. Moreover, not only Wu Hua, you will also be targeted in the competition from now on. Don't complain, it's useless. The more it is like this, the more I must defeat them and use your grades to slap their faces. Long Fei had already expected this. Even though it was unfair, it was better this way, as it could more easily test their current strength. Although Wu Hua did not hear what Long Fei said, he still understood what was going on in his heart. The corner of his mouth slightly curled as he said, "You want me to withdraw from the competition? Ha ha. Your father, will definitely not withdraw from the competition, it's just a little more difficult. Let's see how I'll slap your faces." Lei Xiao sneered. And then, he waved his big hand again. Next, all sorts of spirit grasses appeared on all the alchemy stages. There were 7 or 8 species. The other spirit grasses on the other alchemy stage were fresh, and there were plenty of holy sauces, just like those that had just been picked off the ground. The spirit grass on Wu Hua's alchemy arena was shriveled and shriveled. Not to mention the thinning holy sauce, even the level of the spirit grass had dropped by quite a few grades. These spirit grass are not suitable for alchemy at all. The alchemy arena was playing tricks on him. The spirit grass was doing something. Finally, it was the same when the pill furnace appeared. The pill furnace in front of Wu Hua was just a crock-shaped pill furnace. Forget about tempering it with true fire, even a little force would probably shatter it. This was not targeted. This made it impossible for Wu Hua to concoct pills. Long Fei looked in their eyes, his heart also burning with anger. This is too bullying. Is there such a thing as this? How is this alchemy? Tell them to forge it. Boss, why don't we? Let's withdraw from the competition. There's no need for us to participate in such an unfair competition. Everyone was furious. Long Fei sat on the chair without moving, and said, "The more they target you, the better their performance will be, and only then would I be able to slap their arrogant faces." Anger boiled in his heart. You want them to withdraw from the competition? If they were to withdraw, then they would be happy. Everyone clenched their fists tightly. Bailey Tianhai said, "This way. Wu Hua will probably have some difficulties." The conditions were too poor. Moreover, as long as they did not make any mistakes, the pellets they refined would definitely be of a higher quality than Wu Hua's pellets. Like this, the first round of ancient antiquity would be eliminated. Qian Xianbel said, "Not only that, when you use alchemy, you also have to prevent other people from launching sneak attacks. I observed earlier, the cultivation levels of the alchemists surrounding Wu Hua are all Emperor Swordsman rank. Their eyes were all staring at Wu Hua, filled with killing intent. He should be making a move against Wu Hua. The Sword Sky sect had already given the order to kill, how could he let him go?" Lei Xiao's mouth curved up, he glanced at Long Fei and thought, "Fighting with my Sword Sky sect? What are you fighting us for?" Long Fei noticed Lei Xiao's gaze and he also sneered, "You dared to offend me? It seems like it's not enough to cripple Song Xianhu. All right then we might as well destroy your Sword Sky sect." Long Fei's eyes turned sinister as he stared at Lei Xiao, his eyes emitting a cold killing intent. "Nothing will happen if you don't provoke me. You dared to offend your father? Even the gods have to die." If he got angry, then he would be destroyed. If he got angry, then he would be destroyed. So what if it was the Sword Sky sect? However, Long Fei did not make his move immediately. The injustice done to the ancient antiquity could be used to test the results of their bitter training. Moreover, Wu Hua looked like he was filled with anger. If he were to withdraw from the competition like this, he would definitely be unhappy. Lei Xiao said faintly, "Is everything ready? Anything else to add? If there isn't any, then we'll start later. But let me clarify the rules first. This time, the pills I want you to refine will be spirit-gathering pills. You cannot refine any other pellets, nor can you use any other spirit grass without permission. The moment you discover it, you will be disqualified, and your sect's other competition qualifications will be revoked as well. The top 100 of high grade will receive the right to advance. Do you understand?" All of the alchemy masters shouted, "Understood." "All right then, alchemy competition, begin now." Lei Xiao smiled slightly. Although he did not understand alchemy, he knew very well that it was impossible to use a few spirit grass that no longer had the power of the holy source to refine a spirit-gathering pill. What's more, the alchemy furnace would break with a bang. Under these circumstances, how was one's alchemy? Defeat without a doubt. Defeat was inevitable. However, alchemy failure was not the result that Lei Xiao wanted to hear. The result he wanted was Wu Hua's death. As long as the ancient antiquity dared to send disciples to participate, they would die. Several strongest emperor swordsmen were already in position around Wu Hua, waiting for him to enter the alchemy state. Lei Xiao secretly laughed. This is just the beginning. I want all of your ancient antiquity to die here. Not only that, once your clan congress is finished, I will remove your ancient antiquity from the list. This is the price of provoking the Sword Sky sect. Lei Xiao sat down and coldly glanced at Long Fei. At the same time, on the arena, many alchemy masters were busy. They were all the most outstanding disciples among the sect's alchemy masters, and each one of them had extremely strong alchemy. Every step he took was incomparably careful. They knew very well how to maximize the spirit liquid in the spirit grass and how to raise the grade of the spirit gathering pill to the highest point. While they were busy, Wu Hua did not make his move in a hurry. He was sensing the shriveled-up spirit grass and frowned. Let alone the spirit-gathering pills, even the lowest-level pills cannot make the holy source inside the spirit grass. However, Wu Hua looked up at Long Fei. Huff! He let out a light breath, and the flames in his palms moved, directly lifting the alchemy furnace. At this moment, crash! With a crisp sound, the pill furnace shattered. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! The crowd immediately began to laugh loudly. F***ck, what type of operation is this? Such an awesome alchemy technique, actually refining and shattering the pill furnace? Big brother, you're awesome, ha ha ha. Is this ancient antiquity here to be a joke? What a joke. The furnace broke even before the pill refining had started. Ha ha ha. On stage, everyone below the stage started to mock him. Many of them looked at Long Fei and pointed at him. They are the people from ancient antiquity. Offending the Sword Sky sect and the great god of heaven, can they even have a good ending? Serves you right. I bet none of them will survive. Of course. Everyone around Long Fei was discussing and laughing at them. Zhao Dahan clenched his fists in anger, his legs sunk into the stones, he was extremely furious. Their faces were all extremely ugly to behold. All of them were seething with rage. Long Fei was the calmest, and said lightly, "Don't be angry, calm down, make them laugh, they will not be able to laugh later. We need to believe in Wu Hua. Be targeted everywhere. You want to die just like that. Hee hee. If that was the case, then he was not Long Fei, and these people would not be his brothers. No pill furnace. Spirit grass trash. None of this is the case." Wu Hua was very calm, and his heart was also very calm. Because the alchemy technique that Long Fei had taught him before was to not use the alchemy furnace, but to use the heaven and earth as the furnace and to allow him to maximize the value of the holy source within the spirit grass. Huff! Wu Hua muttered an incantation in his heart. Heaven and earth will be the furnace, so naturally it will be fire. Power of the heavens and the earth, open. 5 elements true fire, appear. Rumble. With an explosive sound, the flames of true energy burned in front of Wu Hua, causing a wave of heat to billow forth. Moreover, the spirit grass moved, and directly flew into the true fire. With a slight movement of Wu Hua's left hand, he sent it into the world and activated the holy source, bringing it into the primordial flames. His series of beautiful actions immediately shocked the surrounding people. Everyone was dumbfounded. I can use alchemy without a pill furnace. F***ck, what's going on? There's such a alchemy. He didn't understand at all. Long Fei taught the ancient alchemy technique. It was the most ancient and most powerful alchemy technique. The commoners of the ancient world had never seen this kind of alchemy technique. However, he had never seen anyone from the mortal world, but he had seen powerhouses from the divine space. Several old men from the divine space stood up abruptly, stared at Wu Hua, and said with a low voice with sunken brows, "This alchemy technique. It seems to be the lost ancient alchemy technique. Something like that. This ancient alchemy technique is refined using the power of nature. This kind of alchemy technique was lost long ago. Why would he appear here? Look at the alchemy primordial fire he used. This is no ordinary fire. This is the 5 elements fire. This child seems to have the physique of the 5 elements. 5 elements body? I wonder how he's doing with his 5 elements body." The voices of a few elders of the divine space made Lei Xiao's heart tremble. How could this be? It even attracted the attention of a god. This was not the result he wanted. Immediately, Lei Xiao's eyes moved slightly. In that instant, the 4 alchemy masters around Wu Hua's pill stage suddenly unleashed their powers. Powder-making competition. Once one entered the alchemy realm, a competition between alchemy masters would appear on the idea, as if it was a martial arts duel. Forget about the 4 alchemy masters who had cultivations in the Emperor Swordsman rank, they were also high-level alchemy grandmasters. The alchemy realm was extremely strong. The idea sunk, and the 4 of them entered Wu Hua's alchemy world at the same time. "Humph! Brat, hand your life over. Kill him." The alchemy of the 4 elders moved at the same time, and all rushed towards Wu Hua. Wu Hua sat cross-legged, and in front of him was a huge ball of 5 elements true fire, when he felt the power of the 4 alchemy surge forth. He suddenly opened his eyes and laughed coldly. "You've come at just the right time. I need your strength." Ah! Fire wheel. There were 2 more fire wheels on his body. The power of the ancient alchemy technique also moved. Destroy. Rumble. With an explosive sound, the 4 elders were immediately blasted away. They spat out mouthfuls of blood as their bodies twitched a few times. Dead. Once one's cultivation reached a certain realm, one could kill anyone, regardless of what one was doing. Once one's cultivation reached a certain realm, one could kill anyone, regardless of what one was doing. Alchemy could also kill. Not with force, but with the power of alchemy. The 4 of them rushed into Wu Hua's alchemy world to kill him, but the 4 of them never thought that Wu Hua's alchemy world was just too strong. Their Grandmaster-level alchemy masters were nothing more than dregs in Wu Hua's world of alchemy, as they were instantly grinded to smithereens. The 4 bodies were sent flying with blood spurting out of their mouths. After struggling for a while, they lost all signs of life. As for Wu Hua, he closed his eyes and channeled some of the power of the 4 into the pill. Boom. Boom. Rumble. After a few sounds, he opened his eyes and said, "Refining is complete." The 5 elements true fire vanished. A pill floated before him. A faint divine light flickered on the surface of the pill. A god-tier pill. The surrounding people were all dumbfounded. Is this a holy plea? That's impossible. The divine light shrouds them. This is the characteristic of a holy plea. Using these spirit grass can refine a holy plea? This is impossible. Spirit gathering pill? What realm is your alchemy at? Many people were envious. To be able to concoct a spirit gathering pill, there was no need to compete at all and he could directly enter the next round. Wu Hua's gaze fixated on Lei Xiao who was standing on the distant stage. Lei Xiao's face was ugly, his fists clenched tightly. He never thought that Wu Hua would be able to refine a holy plea, much less the person he arranged for to die from Wu Hua's shock. This cultivation base. The rage in his heart was boundless. However, what happened next made him even angrier. A few of the divine space powerhouses were discussing whether or not Wu Hua was using the ancient alchemy technique. There was no doubt about it now. I can confirm. Wu Hua used the ancient alchemy technique. The few elders looked at Wu Hua in a different light. A bright light flashed in his eyes. An old man immediately moved through the air and stepped in front of Wu Hua. He revealed a look of affection and said, "Brat, are you willing to enter the divine space?" As soon as he finished, the entire god's material ground trembled slightly. This was only the first round of the competition. And it was just a competition between the disciples outside of the top 100 sects, Yet he was chosen. Someone from the divine space powerhouse directly threw out an olive branch. Without waiting for Wu Hua to speak. Whoosh! Another divine powerhouse appeared in front of Wu Hua and said, "Come to my clan, you will receive endless resources. As long as you agree, I will immediately bring you to the divine space." If the first old man was mistaken, it was impossible for that person to be wrong. Both divine powerhouses. He was even more shocked. Lei Xiao was instantly stupefied. He wanted to say, wanted to explain. But he could not speak. How could this be? Whether it was the surrounding alchemy masters or the surrounding sect disciples, all of them revealed expressions of envy. Zhao Dahan immediately laughed out loud, "Ha ha ha. Mocking us? Laugh. Smile for your father again. Are you even worthy? Damn it, now you know how powerful we are." They were all mocked and ridiculed just now, all sorts of contempt and anger burning in their hearts. If Long Fei didn't calm them down, they would have attacked him already. What clan congress, they wouldn't care so much. Everything that they had was given by Long Fei, not the ancient antiquity, so they did not have much feelings for him. Those people who had mocked Long Fei and the rest earlier all had gloomy expressions. They did not dare to laugh, and did not dare to look at Long Fei and the rest. Because, in this situation, as long as Wu Hua nodded his head, he would be one of the people of the divine space. However, Wu Hua looked at Long Fei in the distance, then looked at the two divine powerhouses, shook his head and said, "I want to enter the divine space, but I want to stay by boss's side more. Thank you, my lords, for your kind intentions." Refuse. He actually rejected it. Wu Hua's choice stunned everyone present once again. Only the people around Long Fei thought that it was very normal. Is he crazy? My brain must be full of water. He actually rejected the divine powerhouse? Then what is he doing here? A chance to soar to heaven in one step, a chance to become a god in one step. Don't I want it anymore? I really don't understand. If this situation was placed in front of anyone, they would not hesitate to directly choose the divine space, but Wu Hua refused. Lei Xiao laughed. Moreover, Lei Xiao growled and berated, "Brat, you actually dare to look down on Master Divine Powerhouse, who do you think you are? The Over-God has taken a liking to you. It's your ancestors that have burned incense, yet you actually dared to refuse. Where do you put the face of the Lord God?" Hearing what Lei Xiao said, the faces of the two high god elders darkened. It was somewhat ugly. An old man said, "Kid, I think you should reconsider. Think it through before making a decision. Otherwise, you will regret it for the rest of your life." Not persuasion, but a threatening tone. If he did not agree, the consequences would be very serious. Wu Hua did not hesitate, and said, "There's no need to worry, I will not go to the divine space with you." How preposterous. The divine elder did not get angry, but Lei Xiao said with a heavy voice, "Brat, you rejected me twice, did you really think you're important? My lord, this brat doesn't know how to appreciate favors. I'll properly take care of him." Lei Xiao found the opportunity and wanted to make his move. The high god old man's face turned cold. He coldly snorted and said, "You ignorant fool." The corner of Lei Xiao's mouth quirked upwards as he said joyfully, "Let me teach him a lesson." As he spoke, he was about to make his move. However, Long Fei suddenly stood up. With a movement in the air, he floated in mid-air, coldly saying, "Lei Xiao, if you have the guts, go ahead and touch him. Do you believe that your Sword Sky sect will have another cripple?" Lei Xiao's eyes darkened as he stared at Long Fei. Long Fei said coldly, "What does the choice my disciple makes have to do with you? What kind of identity do you have to teach my disciple a lesson? Heh. My disciple doesn't know how to appreciate favors, then what are you?" He didn't give the slightest bit of face. The number one sect in ancient world. The most powerful Sword Sky sect. So what? So what? Do I need to give you face? Lei Xiao was a little dazed by Long Fei's questions. He was only the Sword Sky sect's vice-sect master, so he didn't have the qualifications to care about the other sect's disciples' choices. The reason why he was fanning the flames just now was to make Wu Hua offend Master Shen, and take the chance to kill Wu Hua. Now, Master Shenji had been angered by Wu Hua. Lei Xiao laughed coldly, and said, "Do you think you have the right to speak in front of Lord Supreme God? Your disciple is arrogant, disrespectful, and doesn't know how to appreciate favors. If he makes Lord God unhappy, then he should be punished. What is my identity? I will act in my capacity as the host of Clan Congress today." Long Fei's eyes turned cold, and said coldly, "The identity of the Clan Congress's host, right? Fine, if you touch him today, I will immediately make you disappear from this world. Try touching him if you can. Try touching him if you can." Long Fei was extremely arrogant and domineering. It was tough. Moreover, he also did not place the Sword Sky Sect or Lei Xiao in his eyes. As long as he dared to attack, Long Fei would kill him. How could my brother be bullied? Let's see who it is. Long Fei was furious. Lei Xiao was also burning with rage. The qi on his body was like flames, releasing with incomparable heat. He wanted to rip off Long Fei's head right now. But he didn't dare. Because, although he was at the peak of the 9th stage of the Sword Emperor realm, his cultivation level was not as strong as Song Xianhu's. This was enough to show just how powerful Long Fei was. If he made a move, if his cultivation was crippled, then the space between his eyebrows tightened, and said solemnly, "Brat, since today is the Clan Congress, I'll let you off this time." He was scared. He had no choice. He was definitely not a match for Long Fei. Long Fei laughed disdainfully. "Don't even think about it, I already said. Try moving a single hair on his head if you can." Lei Xiao gritted his teeth until it made a cracking sound. One of the Lord Overgod's eyes looked at Long Fei, and said solemnly, "How arrogant. A mere mortal dares to be so arrogant." Lei Xiao immediately added fuel to the fire. "Master, this brat doesn't even put you in his eyes. The reason that alchemy disciple didn't agree to your request earlier is also because of his overbearing attitude." The elderly god once again looked at Long Fei coldly, and said, "Brat, do you know the consequences of offending us?" Facing Lei Xiao, Wu Hua was not nervous at all. Because he knew that Lei Xiao was definitely not Long Fei's match. But now that he was a powerhouse of the divine space, his cultivation was only secondary. The ancient family's power behind his back was the most terrifying thing about him. Moreover, if they were to offend the ancient family now, it meant that they had offended all the ancient families. They are gods. He had always treated himself as the god of the heavens. They could not tolerate a mortal acting arrogantly in front of them. Wu Hua wanted to speak. Long Fei was the first to speak. "Stop with those useless things. If you have the ability, then stop with the beeping. Just make a move, directly fuck this daddy here. If you don't have the ability, then calm down. Understand, divine powerhouse? Empyrean god cultivation? Your father wants to leave you alone. You want me to give you face? Sorry. My name is Long Fei, and I don't place anyone in my eyes." It was not because they were arrogant or overbearing, but because Long Fei had the strength to look down on them. Because the divine powerhouse was able to suppress Long Fei, he did not expect that Long Fei would also not give any face to the Lord God. His heart was ecstatic as he added, "Elder, you heard it. This guy is too arrogant. He doesn't even put you in his eyes. If you let him continue acting smug, where would you put your face?" Divine powerhouse was also extremely angry. In this mortal world, who would dare to provoke them? They are gods. He was the god in the hearts of these mortals. How preposterous. The divine master gave a deep grunt. At the same time, the Empyrean god pressure from his body exploded like a thunderclap. Rumble. Divine light burst out, rushing into the sky. Then, in a split second, a divine beam of light fell from the sky, striking Long Fei. "Boss, be careful." Bailey Tianhai shouted loudly, and said, "Foolish." Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Zhao Dehan had already disappeared. Dilly. Ah! Sky Tyrant body. Boom. Zhao Dehan's body charged forward and instantly blocked the top of Long Fei's head, and at the same time, he released the power of a monarch. The power of that piece of heavenly black stone burst out. Rumble. 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 Tens of thousands of thunderbolts rumbled as divine light burst forth. Long Fei stood in place without moving, and without even lifting his head to look. The divine light disappeared. Zhao Dahan lightly landed on the ground, the black veins on his body slowly retreated, and his body was covered in strange black runes. The runes slowly faded away. Long Fei asked softly, "Are you all right?" Zhao Dahan laughed foolishly and said, "It's fine, I can hold on." Long Fei looked at the divine powerhouse. He was stunned. She stared at Zhao Dahan and said, You are not a mortal?" Zhao Dahan rubbed the bridge of his nose and said, "I am a mortal, so what if I am a mortal? I can defeat a self-righteous god like you." Unconvinced. "Fight." Zhao Dahan became excited. The high god old man's expression was ugly. No one knew how much power he had used just now. He had originally wanted to turn Long Fei into powder and let everyone know what would happen if he provoked the god of heaven, so he used his strongest power. But it was actually blocked by Long Fei's subordinates. It wasn't a block. Instead, he forcefully withstood it. He used his physical body to withstand the attack. What kind of concept was this? The toughness of his body was even greater than that of an ordinary Empyrean god. He had never seen the defensive power of an emperor just now. Awesome to the point of being a complete mess, the Divine Master let out a deep breath, his eyes locked onto Long Fei as he silently thought in his heart, just what kind of background does this group of people have? With a sweep of his sleeve, he let out a heavy snort. Then, he immediately returned to his original spot. He didn't dare to face Zhao Dahan head-on. This caused the entire audience to be secretly shocked. Especially Lei Xiao. He was instantly struck dumb. He stood there in a daze, his heart trembling, and even his hair standing on end. How abnormal was this? The power of the god's powerhouse was actually forcefully withstood. This was too powerful. Gudong. Lei Xiao swallowed a huge mouthful of saliva as he turned around to return to his seat at the Sword Sky Sect. "Wait," Long Fei said softly. Lei Xiao's face was a little pale, and she said, what do you want to do?" Long Fei said, "My brother's alchemy has ended. Can you enter the second round?" Lei Xiao didn't even dare to fart. Right now, he felt as if his little life was in Long Fei's hands and he would die if Long Fei used even a little bit of strength. Lei Xiao said, "After passing through the first round, you will be able to enter the second round." After he finished speaking, Lei Xiao looked at Long Fei and said, I can leave now, right?" Long Fei contemptuously said, "Scram." As if he had received an amnesty, Lei Xiao quickly flew to Sword Sky Sect's side. His face had always been pale, but now he finally knew why Song Shenhu's heart was left with such a shadow. This fellow was too terrifying. Everyone in the Sword Sky Sect looked at Lei Xiao. Sect Master Wn Jian also looked at Lei Xiao. Lei Xiao was still trembling uncontrollably as he said in a trembling voice, "Senior brother, they are too strong." The space between the 10,000 swords tightened. Xianming Abyss looked at Long Fei, and then at the group of people behind him. To think that the combined power of each and every sword emperor is extraordinary. Interesting. That's more interesting. And then, Xianming Abyss turned his face and asked, "Is the Dark God here?" The waiter said, "We're here." It was one thing if they were going to the Sword Sky Sect, but now, they were even going to go against the Lord God. Furthermore, they were not giving him any face at all. It was one thing if they were going to the Sword Sky Sect, but now, they were even going to go against the Lord God. Furthermore, they were not giving him any face at all. However, Zhao Dahan's explosive strength shocked the entire audience. With such a powerful defense, even the Lord High God gave up on attacking. He probably knew that this fellow was not to be trifled with. Even the god's power could block it. How strong was his defense? However, Zhao Dahan returned to his seat. His body sank. His entire body froze, and his face turned extremely pale. Taking advantage of the moment when the surrounding people weren't paying attention, He spat out a mouthful of blood. You idiot. Big stupid bro. Zhao Dahan revealed his blooded teeth. He shook his head and said, I'm fine. The god's power. How powerful was that strike? In one move, he used his body to block it. Although he managed to block it, he also suffered heavy injuries. It was just that he didn't show it in front of so many people. Now that he had returned to his seat, he could no longer hold himself back. Long Fei's forehead tightened. Without saying a word, a drop of water appeared and directly dripped into Zhao Dahan's mouth, reminding him, don't speak, recover your body first. Spirit blood was extremely important to Long Fei. Long Quang didn't have time to stop it. Master, it's hard to break through in your cultivation right now, so if you give spirit blood to someone else, it'll be even harder to break through. Long Quang said anxiously. Long Fei ignored him. Compared to brother's injuries, it was obviously brother who was more important. When spirit blood entered his body, he immediately sat cross-legged and began cultivating. Long Fei exhaled deeply and said, in the future, without my order, none of you are allowed to go up. No matter what happens to me, none of you are allowed up. These people still needed time to cultivate. Their powers were not bad for dealing with the strongest Emperor swordsman, but the powerhouses who were good at dealing with the divine space were still lacking in strength and were unable to fight against it. This was also due to Zhao Dahan's talent in the outer world stone. If it was anyone else, they would probably die. And Zhao Dahan could only take it head-on. His strength could not match up to the god's powerhouse at all. Everyone nodded, got it. Long Fei turned and scanned his surroundings. Looking at the direction of the Sword Sky Sect, he couldn't help but clench his fists tightly. Sword Sky Sect. Wait. The anger in Long Fei's heart raged. Half an hour later, the first 100 places in the alchemy competition were announced. These 100 people had the qualifications to enter the next round, which is to say, exchange pointers with the alchemy masters of the top 100 sects. The next challenge is refining. The host was changed. This time, the one who appeared on the stage was not Lei Xiao, but the current patriarch of the Sword Sky Sect, Thousand Sword. His appearance surprised many people. Qian Xianbel also immediately said to Long Fei, he is the sect master of the Sword Sky Sect and also Song Xianhu's master. He did not appear in the Heavenly Law City at the beginning. It looks like he had rushed over here overnight when something happened to Song Xianhu. Master. Long Fei glanced at it. Qian Xianbel said, currently, he is one of the strongest people in the mortal world. His cultivation has reached a level of perfection. He also had a special identity. He was the Demon Sealer. Our clan's honorary elders, all the disciples of Sword Sky Sect have joined the Demon Sealing clan. Song Xianhu's father entered the Demon Sealing clan that year. It's also because of the Demon Sealers that his Sword Sky Sect is the #1 sect in the past. Aside from their own strength, sects also had their own powerful backers. The backer was very important. The ancient clan of the Divine Space, the Demon Sealing clan, was the backer of the Sword Sky Sect. Lei Xiao's legs were still weak, and the 10,000 swords had personally come up to preside over the battle. His appearance shocked many people. Sword Sky Sect's sect leader? Isn't he in closed-door cultivation? Why did it appear on the clan congress? Nonsense, how could he not come when something happens to Song Xianhu? I heard that Song Xianhu was also crippled by that kid from the ancient antiquity. When this master came out of seclusion, he wanted to redeem himself. It probably isn't that easy to get back at him. You guys saw it just now, the person beside that brat can look at the god's power. I heard that the sect master of the Sword Sky Sect is even stronger than ordinary god's powerhouse. Coupled with the fact that the ancient antiquity offended these esteemed gods, I reckon that the ancient antiquity will not be able to escape death. Wen Jian coldly looked at Long Fei and said indifferently, sect leaders, leader, please send out your disciples. While they were talking, he swept his sleeve. Buzz. All of the alchemy stages on the entire god's material ground had disappeared and were replaced by the refining platform. At the same time, the aura Long Fei sensed changed again. Very strange. Every time the god's material ground changed, he could feel the different energy auras. Even if you were to say that the power of the Heavenly Sword Emperor wasn't like that. Zhong Xian was perplexed. However, Long Fei did not think too much into it, and said, "Fight." Wu Jin took a step forward and walked towards the god's material ground. Long Fei reminded him, "Be careful yourself. Refining platform is also a battlefield, anything can happen." Wu Jin nodded and said, "I'll be careful." He quickly walked to the god's material ground. Just like Wu Hua, the materials given to Wu Jin's refining platform were extremely low, and were completely different from the materials given to other artificers. Just a few pieces of iron ore. There was no spirit stone at all, it was just a few pieces of trash. However, Wu Jin did not protest. He knew that it was useless to protest. Wn Jian calmly said, "Everyone is ready, let's begin." As soon as he finished, thousands of master refiners began refining. Wu Jin looked at the few pieces of iron ore in front of him with a calm expression. When the idea moved, he thought about the incantation Long Fei had passed on to him. In that instant, the refining fire started to move. A few divine powerhouses frowned and asked, "Ancient alchemy? Is this a coincidence? It was just the ancient alchemy technique and now it's the ancient alchemy. This is something that disappeared for several billion years from the ancient world, why would it appear here? Who taught them that? It was another ancient technique. The thing that even the divine space disappeared from appeared here. How could they not be shocked?" Xian Ming Abyss's pupils tightened. If the ancient alchemy technique was a coincidence, then this ancient alchemy was definitely not. He couldn't help but look at Long Fei. His heart shivered. "It seems that you really know quite a lot of things. Everyone says that you are Long Batian's reincarnation, and all of these ancient techniques disappeared together with Long Batian. It looks like you really are Long Batian's reincarnation. You must have a lot of ancient power on you, right? This is great. If I kill you, I will fuse with your power, and at that time, Xian Ming Abyss would not need to stay in this place anymore." Xian Ming Abyss's eyes lit up. He couldn't control himself any longer. At this moment, Long Fei was a treasure in his eyes, like the existence of a super big boss. The competition at the refining techniques was yet again a one-sided stomp. Moreover, the two people who had ambushed Wu Jin were also instantly sent flying. The refining realm of the ancient alchemy was much stronger than that of an ordinary refining techniques, so it was more than enough to deal with these people. "I refined a holy artifact. Who are these people? Are you still letting me live? Even the refining chief master S of the top 100 sects can't compare to them. Ancient antiquity, I have never heard of it before." Discussions broke out. 10,000 people admired him. Wu Jin walked back to his seat. Many people were extremely envious. Of course, many people were also furious. They felt that Long Fei's group wouldn't be able to live for long. After all, he had offended the Sword Sky sect and the Lord God, and Wu Jin had also mercilessly refused the ancient family's invitation just now. This caused the Lord God to lose a lot of face. It was just that. They didn't attack, but a ball of anger was suppressed within their hearts. He really doesn't know how to appreciate favors. He doesn't put us old guys in his eyes at all. Could it be that they didn't come to the clan congress to enter the divine space? Since they're so arrogant, there's no need for us to show them any face. I suggest that we don't take any disciples of the ancient antiquity. Let's see how they'll kneel in front of us then. I agree. Not only that, since these people are so arrogant, even if they don't look down on us, we must make them pay the price and let them know about the might of a transcendent deity. I agree. We should teach them a lesson. Otherwise, do they really think they can stand above us? After so long, who would dare act so arrogantly in front of them? Who dared to not give them face? Reverse him. Long Fei's actions and words made the people from the divine space feel extremely unhappy. To them, it was as if they had been humiliated. His heart was filled with rage. If he did not get back at them, then where would their face be? Then what would the face of the divine space be? Xianming Abyss looked at the elders of the ancient family and smiled. Looks like Long Fei has successfully infuriated them. Heh. This is for the best, let them waste Long Fei first. I'll come out again to clean up the mess. Ha ha ha. Xianming Abyss laughed coldly. For the next battle, we will draw up the formation for the next battle. All participating disciples, please inscribe the origin convergence array. The condition is that you must use the materials provided by the convention, and are not allowed to use any external help. Disciples, please take a seat. The moment Wen Jian finished his words, he waved his sleeve. Buzz. The refining platform on the god's material ground disappeared and turned into an array platform, where all sorts of materials were placed. At this moment, Long Fei frowned slightly. This aura. He once again felt a different aura. Long Fei immediately asked, Long Quang, do you feel this special aura? Long Quang shook his head. No, what aura? Long Fei's heart tightened. Logically speaking, even Long Quang could feel this strange qi, but he actually did not. From the moment Wu Hua had entered the alchemy, he had felt a special aura from the god's material ground. Alchemy was one kind of technique. Refining was another type of weapon. It was now an inscription formation, and Long Fei could feel different auras, which were very huge, slowly flowing through his senses. It was as if he was floating in a sea of energy. So powerful. Long Fei looked at Qian Xianbel and asked, do you sense any kind of special power aura? Qian Xianbel shook his head, and said, no. Nor. Not only Qian Xianbel, Bailey Tianhai, and the others could not feel this special aura. Phoenix looked at Long Fei and asked, my darling, what's wrong? Looking at Phoenix's expression, it was likely that he did not sense anything. Long Fei smiled, shook his head, and said, nothing much, I just felt that it was a little special. Long Fei thought in his heart, this aura. Just what kind of power is it? From the moment he entered the god's material ground, he could feel a strong power on the battlefield, and thought that it was the power of the heavenly sword emperor that Long Quang had spoken of. This strike contained countless amounts of power. It was as if he was living in 100 different ways. However, in every match that happened, every change happened in the god's material ground, allowing Long Fei to feel different types of energy flows. Very strong. It caused Long Fei to be extremely shocked. Huff. Long Fei let out a light breath, as he carefully paid attention to the direction of the flow of the aura. The more he tried to sense around him, the stronger this aura became. Following his senses, this aura of power came from all directions. Long Fei was startled, and immediately stopped sensing. At the same time, the competition of inscriptions began. Wu Tu quickly formed a formation, which was the same ancient engraving formation. When the elders of the ancient family saw the ancient engraving formation, a series of shocked expressions appeared on their faces and their eyes shined with a bright light. However, this time, they did not come out to invite Wu Tu. But they cast their gaze at Long Fei. At this time, Xianming Abyss became even more excited in his heart, another ancient power. Long Fei, oh Long Fei, no wonder Master placed so much importance on you. You actually have such a strong power in your body. Ha ha ha. Boom, boom. The power of the formation suddenly erupted. Two figures flew out from Wu Tu's array and flew out 100 meters, straight to the point where they were bleeding from their 7 orifices. Wu Tu smirked and laughed coldly. You dare be cocky in front of me with this level of formation? Too trashy. The center of the 10,000 swords turned malevolent. The players sent out 3 times were no match for him. This made him extremely unhappy. He clenched his fists. I'll definitely let you guys finish the next match. The 10,000 swords gritted their teeth as they spoke. At this time, an old man wearing a purple robe appeared in front of the Sword Sky sect and indifferently said, Junior brother. As soon as he finished, Wen Jian's body trembled, he immediately turned around. Senior brother. Lei Xiao also forced himself to calm down, and said, Great senior brother. The purple-robed elder was surrounded by a divine light, and on his purple robe was embroidered a large word seal. It was extremely eye-catching. He is Song Xianhu's father, Song Gucheng. He is also the senior brother of 10,000 Swords. Seeing Song Gucheng, the 10,000 Swords' eyes lit up, and immediately landed by his side. Senior brother, you're here? The injury of the immortal fox. Song Gucheng said indifferently, I'm here. My son's injuries are naturally fine. That's good. Wen Jian relaxed slightly as he said, the shadow in his heart. Song Gucheng said, don't worry, the current Song Xianhu is no longer the Song Xianhu of yesterday. And today, not only am I here, even the third elder of Devil Tribe is here. He is here to bring the immortal fox into the divine space. The immortal fox is now the third elder's personal disciple. As Song Gucheng spoke, his face revealed a hint of satisfaction. He was proud of his son. He was proud of his son. He didn't expect the third elder to take a fancy to the immortal fox with just a single glance. Moreover, giving a 7 stars transforming body pill to Song Xianhu as a gift, this 7 stars transforming body pill was not an ordinary pill, it contained the power of 7 cycles. Once the pellets entered his body, Song Xianhu seemed to have instantly broken through his bottleneck and stepped into the divine realm. Becoming a god before stepping into the divine space was something that had never happened in the mortal world. The 7 stars body transforming pellet not only brought forth energy, it also caused a huge change to Song Xianhu's state of mind. He was a god, an existence that looked down upon everything with contempt. He was accepted by the third elder as a personal disciple. And then, the 10,000 Swords grew excited. Ha ha ha! With the third elder's help, the immortal fox will definitely become very powerful. If his invisible sword world could unleash the power of a divine realm expert, it will definitely be able to crush everything. Ha ha ha! The heavens have truly blessed my sword sky sect. Ha ha ha! The 10,000 Swords laughed out loud in excitement. Song Gucheng also had a smile on his face as he said, I came to tell you to stop targeting ancient antiquity, and hand these people over to Immortal Fox. He'll send them to hell one by one. Myriad Sword said, ha ha ha. I understand. Lei Xiao slowly calmed himself down, the fear in his heart lessened, and he asked, what is Immortal Fox's cultivation level now? Song Gucheng said, his cultivation should not be weaker than mine. Heh! Heh! Wen Jian and Lei Xiao were stunned at the same time. It was a complete mess. A few minutes later, Wen Jian walked up the stage with his face completely red, and said, the next round is the talisman, please enter the stage, disciple. While they were talking, with a sweep of his sleeve, the arenas of the gods' material ground disappeared and turned into the talisman stage. At the same time, the power that Long Fei felt changed drastically. It changed again. It's another type of aura. But this qi is not the power to refine talisman. What is it? Long Fei's brows were locked tight together. He could not figure it out. He had never felt such power before either. Very strange. Each change was different. If alchemy was the power of alchemy and artifact forging was the power of refining force, he could still comprehend the corresponding strength. However, the power released by the god's material ground was not at all. What is it? Why can only I sense it? Why is it that the moment I sense it, the energy pounced towards me? Long Fei did not understand. He wanted to figure this out, but at the same time, he did not dare to absorb the energy. Because he didn't know what this power was. Why did he choose him? What was it? Long Fei could not find an answer. In this sort of situation, he could only rely on himself. There was no way for him to rely on others. Even Long Quang didn't know about it, so who would? Is the Heavenly Sword Emperor related to him? If so, what should I do? Long Fei secretly thought. He stopped for a moment, his heart secretly sinking. I don't care. If I don't figure this out, I'm probably going to go crazy. Immediately, Long Fei sat cross-legged, using all the strength in his body as well as the idea S. At this moment, the special powers he sensed rushed crazily into his body. His body was like a sponge absorbing water, absorbing it crazily. However, the power that he had absorbed was like a clay ox entering the sea. Long Fei could not feel it at all. It was as if his body was a huge container, and the aura he absorbed was not up to the extent that Long Fei could feel it. You can't sense it, right? All right. Long Fei opened up his mind and absorbed even more power. At the same time, his entire person was like an old monk sitting in meditation. His hands were placed below his stomach as he entered a state of selflessness. He was completely excluded from everything that was happening around him. Wu Hua looked at Long Fei and said, "Boss, he." The surrounding people could not help but become suspicious when they saw Long Fei like this. Bailey Tianhai said, "They should be comprehending something, do not disturb them." Everyone immediately nodded. Phoenix looked at Long Fei and the corners of her mouth curled into a smile. Long Fei entered into a state of cultivation. Bailey Tianhai immediately took charge of the overall situation, and said to Wu Shuai, "You just need to perform as expected during the competition of the talisman, beware of being ambushed." Wu Shuai nodded. He stood up and walked off the stage. What was different from the previous matches was that this time, Wu Shuai did not receive any special treatment. At the same time as refining the talisman, no one else came to launch a sneak attack. This made Bailey Tianhai a little confused. He looked at the 10,000 swords and mumbled, "Without any special attacks, have you given up?" "Definitely not. Since the killing order has been issued, if you want to stop it, you have to slap your own face, unless they have other plans." Bailey Tianhai thought. With no one interfering, Wu Shuai quickly used the ancient talisman art to refine a high-level talisman. At the same time, those elders of the ancient family also looked in their eyes as they conversed in a low voice. The appearance of the ancient martial arts made every one of them very excited, but it was also because the ancient martial arts was too eye-catching. They neglected the power of the 5 elements on the brothers of 5 elements' body. This was also something that Long Fei had deliberately arranged. When the 5 elemental bodies appeared at the same time, forget about the mortal world, even divine space would cause a sensation. If one's innate talent was discovered, they would be destroyed if they couldn't obtain it. This was the world. Wu Shuai skipped back, her face full of happiness, and said, "You didn't make everyone lose face, did you? Xiao Shuai, you did very well. Just now I noticed those ancient family elders, they had all forgotten to wear them, and wanted to tie you up and bring you back to the divine space." Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed. Hold on, Beast Master competition. The aura of his strength changed yet again. The power that Long Fei absorbed changed again. Similarly, the energy absorbed by his body was still completely insufficient, but Long Fei still could not feel the energy circulating within his body. However, he finally had a better understanding of why these energy auras had chosen him. Heart of Kings. It was something the system had rewarded him with when he first cleared the instance dungeon. It would take 10 days to fuse with a Heart of Kings. Counting the current day, today was the 10th day. It was also because of the aura of power of the Heart of Kings that it rushed to him. Of course, this was only his guess, and whether it was the same as his guess or not, had yet to be confirmed. Long Fei felt that it was because of the Heart of Kings. Long Fei looked at the system. The progress of the Heart of Kings' fusion has already reached 99%, there is still 1% left to complete. What kind of change will there be then? These powers. Choose me. If it's because of the Heart of Kings, then what are these powers? King's power? Long Fei's heart sank. This world does not have the power of King's power. How strong is it? He didn't know now. However, Long Fei was sure that he would be very powerful. The battles ended one by one, and began again and again. The battles ended one by one, and began again and again. In every match, the ancient antiquities side would obtain the first place as they refined the best quality items, such as pills, weapons, arrays, beast taming. They were all the most amazing. They were all qualified to compete with the top 100 sects. Ancient antiquity had also become the most dazzling star today. The various sects were all discussing. They were discussing about the ancient antiquity, and the other ancient families were also discussing about it, but they were discussing about the ancient martial arts. Back then the #1 powerhouse of the ancient times, Long Batian, disappeared as well, and so did these ancient martial arts. Now that we are here again, could it be? He did not continue, because he did not dare to continue. Another old man spoke. Are you saying that Long Batian has returned? All of the elders' eyes turned cold. Many people turned to look at the Dark God tribe. These people all knew that the Dark God tribe was one of the Shen's forces, and they were extremely afraid. You can't say such nonsense. Furthermore, now that the dragon race has been exterminated, if Long Batian is really reincarnated, then it should be a little earlier. At the very least, it should be able to save the dragon race. Now that the dragon race has been removed from the divine space, other than Long Wushan, there are still the dragons? That's right, the dragon clan has already been removed from the list, and once the position of the god of boundary is taken by the Emperor Shen, the entire realm beneath the ancient world will go through a cleanup. At that time, it will probably be the end of the dragon clan. You can't say that either. Don't you know that the Emperor Shen is also looking for the descendants of dragons? I heard that this guy annihilated the descendants of the Emperor Shen in Universal Realm, causing the Emperor Shen to be greatly enraged. Could this person be Long Batian's reincarnation body? The reason the Emperor Shen did not have a dragon race is also because of this kid. It might actually be true. These matters are not what we are concerned about. I just want to know who taught these ancient martial arts to them. You have to know, these are all ancient power. The ancient power is not something that anyone can control. Don't be in such a hurry. We'll know when we catch him and ask him. They were extremely interested in the ancient martial arts. You know, if they could control a type of ancient martial arts, their family's power would definitely skyrocket. At the same time, if Long Batian had truly reincarnated, they would not dare to move. It was not because they were afraid of the dragon race, but because they were afraid of the Shens. Their conversation was extremely clear in Shen Ming Abyss's ears. Shen Ming Abyss laughed coldly. This group of old fellows sure knows quite a lot, to think that they would actually think of Long Batian. But they did get it right. Shen Ming Abyss looked in the direction of the ancient antiquity, smiled lightly, and said, Long Batian has returned? Hee hee. With the date set, even if you are Long Batian, you will not be able to escape death today. Ha ha ha. At this moment, indistinctly, a ball of indistinct black shadow stood behind Shen Ming Abyss. The spirit of the underworld. He could also be called God of Underworld. The God of Underworld who had fought with the Shens back then and was annihilated by him. He was also the most powerful powerhouse back then. God of Underworld has fallen, but the current God of Underworld was only a puppet. He was the flesh of the God of Underworld, and although he possessed the power of the God of Underworld, he did not have the consciousness of the God of Underworld. He was a living dead man. A puppet controlled by the Shens. This kind of existence that was extremely close to the God of Boundary in the past. What was there for Shen Ming Abyss to be afraid of? Long Fei had not completely recovered his strength even though he was Long Batian's reincarnation, so it was very easy for the God of Underworld to take care of him. Thus, Shen Ming Abyss was not worried at all. No matter how strong I am, I won't be able to escape from my grasp. Shen Ming Abyss laughed. The next competition is about power. Disciples of the big sects, please prepare. Wn Gen stepped onto the stage and said. The pattern on the god's material ground also quickly changed. At this moment, with another change in strength, the space between Long Fei's eyebrows tightened. It's changed again, it's another new competition. Then, he looked at the fusion of the Heart of Kings. It was still the same 99%, just a bit more than that, but it would take a full 10 days to complete. Long Fei did not bother with the Heart of Kings as he continued to crazily absorb the aura released from the god's material ground. Bailey Tianhai looked at Zhao Dehan. After Zhao Dehan absorbed Long Fei's body, he also entered into cultivation state. Lu Zun said, "Why don't I go up?" Bailey Tianhai said, "You are a sword cultivator. For the next round, I will compete you in Sword Dao, and this round will be your win." Bailey Tianhai wanted to ask the 5 outer court disciples to go. However, Zhao Dehan suddenly opened his eyes, and in the next moment a divine light flashed by, and he said, "Is it my turn?" Bailey Tianhai stared blankly for a moment, then asked, How are your injuries? Zhao Dahan immediately stood up and stretched his limbs, then said, very good, I'm not injured at all, is it my turn? Bailey Tianhai said, yes, this is a competition of strength. Zhao Dahan said excitedly, it's finally my turn, ha ha ha. While they were talking, Zhao Dahan took a step forward. But with that step, he flew up into the air. Huh! Zhao Dahan was unable to control his body, and immediately fell down. Bam! A half-meter deep hole was made in the ground. Pausing for half a second, Zhao Dahan crawled up from the deep pit, shook his head, and said, what situation is this? Why am I unable to control my strength? His face was covered in filth, and he had a silly look on his face again. This caused many people in the surrounding crowd to mock him. Ha ha ha. I've seen countless ways to go on stage, but I've never seen anything like this. You big idiot. Ha ha ha. Zhao Dahan did not pay attention to the ridicule from others. He looked at his own hands and clenched his fists. Boom. Boom. Rumble. A series of explosions sounded out around his body. He was completely dumbfounded. What's going on, my power? How did it become like this? Brother Tianhai, what's wrong with the silly brother? How could he have fallen? Has your injury recovered? Why don't you let us go? Bailey Tianhai laughed and said, not bad, this guy. Becomes stronger that he can't even get used to. He thought about Spirit Blood who had foolishly devoured Long Fei. After more than 2 hours, Zhao Dahan was no longer his usual simple-minded self. Bailey Tianhai glanced at Long Fei, and excitedly thought in his heart, boss, what kind of monster are you exactly, for your Spirit Blood to have such a strong power? He knew. Phoenix also knew. She also looked at Long Fei, feeling very happy in her heart. My darling is just different, those words you said will definitely be true. She thought about what Long Fei had said about Phoenix Valley marrying her. At this moment, Zhao Dahan went up on stage in a daze. At the same time, a system announcement rang out in Long Fei's mind. Ding. The system beep suddenly rang out. Ding. In that moment, Long Fei's mind trembled, and his gaze immediately fell on the progress of the Heart of Kings fusion. It has reached 100%. It was also at this moment. Congratulations to player Long Fei for successfully fusing with Heart of Kings. It was a prompt indicating the success of the fusion. There wasn't anything special about it, and Long Fei also didn't feel any special energy entering his body. He could not help but be confused, spending 10 days to fuse with a Heart of Kings, and now that it's fused, there's no benefit at all? The heck? System, aren't you a bit of a scammer? Logically speaking, under normal circumstances, after spending so much time fusing with an object, one would definitely be able to undergo great changes after succeeding. But, right now, Long Fei did not feel any changes at all. He really didn't feel anything. Long Fei opened up his personal stats. There's no change either. There isn't much in the skill bar either. My mind and my sea of consciousness haven't changed either. Could it be that I've fused with a fake Heart of Kings? Damn. System, you are absolutely deceiving me. Long Fei complained in his heart. In these 10 days, if there was not a single change, how could he not be on fire? He had always thought of himself as a king, but in the end, it was a bronze one. The difference in their hearts was too great. You are the system, everything is up to you, you are the boss. But, you bastard, don't let me find your creator. If I were to find him, you would probably be trembling. Long Fei shouted fiercely in his heart. Since he had the system in his body, I can't get rid of it. Then he should have gotten himself an explosive existence. No matter what he killed, the system was here to scam him. This was very uncomfortable. Is it interesting to have so many restrictions? Did he really think he was playing the game? However, this was not a game, this was reality. One would bleed, one would lose life, one would die, and one would not be able to revive. What's the point of this? If I was the system's designer, I would have definitely made the host explode and reveal everything he wanted. Killing any ant would give away holy artifact, just like killing a perverted private servant. Long Fei was indignant. Complaining is complaining. Reality still had to be faced with. No matter how many complaints there were, the system would not change. Long Fei could only calm his heart and not think about this. Huff. Long Fei let out a light breath. The idea moved to once again feel the special aura released from the god's material ground. It's different again, the aura's different again. Now was the time to compete in strength. The aura on the god's material ground changed. Just as Long Fei was thinking about how to absorb more of this unique qi, suddenly, he felt that the special aura in the god's material ground was like a gate that had just been opened. A special aura was being released crazily. It was like a dam draining water. That scene. Boom. 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 A special aura rolled out, and all of these auras surged into Long Fei's body. His body also instantly became an incomparably huge container. F***CK. What's going on? Long Fei felt an explosive sound as the aura surged into his body. At the beginning, he could not take in the aura of the god's material ground no matter how hard he tried. However, now, it was as if the aura of the entire god's material ground had poured into his body. Immense strength. Long Fei's body also started to boil. The sudden change in events was too late for him to think about it, to the point where he himself was unable to stop it. He could only let the god's material ground's qi flow into his body. Boom. Boom. Rumble. Thunderous roars filled his body, echoing out in all directions. All of these auras rushed into one place. Long Fei's heart. This was also different from the aura Long Fei absorbed at the beginning. My heart. The sudden change was due to the fusion of the heart of kings. That must be it. The reason why I am able to sense powers that others cannot sense is definitely because of the heart of kings, but what kind of change can it bring to the heart by absorbing the qi of the god's material ground? Long Fei was starting to look forward to it. However, even if he absorbed such a huge amount of qi, Long Fei would still not be able to sense the change in his power. He was in no hurry. He believed that Heart of Kings that had taken 10 days to successfully fuse would definitely not disappoint him. He sat cross-legged. There was no change in his expression. He was more focused now. Rumble. There was an explosive sound. The 3 pieces of rock, which weighed 100,000 jin and had a thickness of 4 meters, had been penetrated. One of their fists had been pierced through. He slightly retracted his fist. Hualala. The 3 gigantic walls were completely shattered into powder. Zhao Dahan stood there, looking at his own fist, then looking at those powdered diamond walls. He was as happy as a child. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. I became stronger again, my strength became stronger again. Ha ha ha. Everyone present was shocked by him. This kind of rock wall was incomparably hard, and meat fists were hard to break, let alone a pair of meat fists. Let's just destroy it. It's better to destroy 3 chunks with a single punch. And it directly turned into powder. How powerful was this power? It carried an incomparably strong force of vibration with it as it pierced through. Even the elders of the ancient world stood up abruptly. This brat's strength. Even innate divine strength can't do that. Old you, no wonder you didn't die when your attack landed on him. This power is too terrifying. What kind of people are they? Not only did the ancient martial arts appear, there's even such a monster. Are all mortals this strong now? The elders of the ancient family were all stunned. To be able to shock them, it meant that Zhao Dahan's fist strike earlier was too powerful, and did not belong to the god. Wan Jian's face darkened. Lei Xiao's expression was also very ugly. Seated on his seat, Song Guqing had a face full of calmness. He looked calm, but his heart was also rippling. He was shocked by Zhao Dahan's strength and said, calm down, calm down. Lei Xiao slightly asked, are all ancient antiquity-s disciples of monsters? Wan Jian said, senior brother, can the immortal fox's power reach this level? Song Guqing's brows slightly tightened, and said, you will see for yourselves soon. He should be appearing in the next match, right? Next match. Wan Jian and Lei Xiao looked at each other. They didn't understand. Wan Jian asked, "There's no need for Immortal Fox to fight in the next round, he." Song Guqing laughed coldly, and interrupted, "In the next sword faction competition, he will appear as someone else. He said before that he would make all the people from ancient antiquity die." Ha ha ha. I have become stronger, my strength has become stronger, second brother, did you see that? Zhao Dahan returned to his seat and laughed excitedly. Ha ha ha. I have become stronger, my strength has become stronger, second brother, did you see that? Zhao Dahan returned to his seat and laughed excitedly. He was extremely pleased with himself. To him, there was nothing more joyful than becoming stronger. Bailey Tianhai said, "I see, I know you have become stronger, but do you know why you have become stronger?" Zhao Dahan was startled. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei, who was meditating, and said, "That's because of boss." Zhao Dahan reacted and said, "Yes, boss, boss." The crowd burst into laughter at the silly look on his face. Bailey Tianhai said, "The next round should be a sword competition." Everyone looked at Lu Xun. Lu Xun walked forward and said, "Don't worry, I won't disappoint everyone. I won't disappoint those who are sealed." Bailey Tianhai said, "Brother Lu, it doesn't matter if you are disappointed or not, the key is that you have to be careful yourself. There is a high chance that you will clash with others in the sword Dao competition. You have to be careful, boss said before, whether you lose or not, your life is important." There was nothing more important than one's life. Lu Xun was too ambitious. He wanted to win. The first time he had failed to fuse with the Sword Emperor, he had spent less than half a month in the Veins mine to cultivate and once again step into the Emperor Swordsman rank. He had failed once, and was fusing. This was something that ordinary people could not do. It was also because of his desire to win. Lu Xun nodded and said, "Don't worry, I will be careful." At this moment, Wan Jian walked onto the stage and read out the names of those who had passed the strength trial, then said, "The next match will be on the Sword Dao. Please send out the participating disciples from the various sects. After the competition for the Sword Path, it will be the challenge for the top 100. Whether or not your sects can enter the top 100 will depend on today. All right, disciples, please enter." This was a competition in the Dao of the Sword. It was also the only PvP match. It was also the finale. In every sect, sword cultivators were the strongest force. There were many martial artists that cultivated in the way of the sword. The strength of a sect depended on one's skill in the way of the sword. Many disciples entered the hall. Lu Xun faced the crowd and crossed his hands, then turned and entered the stage. "Brother Lu, be careful. Don't worry, with Brother Lu's strength, he will be able to defeat the other party very quickly. It's also a Emperor Swordsman rank. How many disciples are there in this middle-level sect?" They still believed in Lu Xun's strength quite a bit. There were very few strongest Emperor Swordsmen south in the first place, and among the disciples of low-level sects, there were very few that had Emperor Swordsman rank S. Victory was certain. However, Bailey Tianhai looked at Sword Sky sect, and revealed a proud sneer at the corner of his mouth when he saw the 10,000 swords. He started to worry in his heart. With Brother Lu's strength, winning this match is naturally not a problem, but I'm afraid that Sword Sky sect is playing some tricks again. "It can't be. I didn't meet with any tricks just now," Zhao Dahan said. Aside from the first few rounds, the next few rounds were not targeted at them. The threat of the order to kill seemed to have disappeared. None of the sect disciples had targeted them. Bailey Tianhai said, "Hopefully, they won't do anything funny." However, Bailey Tianhai glanced at Long Fei. When Long Fei enters cultivation, he had to take good care of these people. Chen Xianbel nodded and said, "Okay." Bailey Tianhai's heart relaxed. As long as the 6th stage God State made his move, saving anyone on the stage should not be a problem. No matter how strong he was not as strong as God State. "Where's Immortal Fox? Why didn't I see it? Senior brother, is the Immortal Fox really in the crowd? Why can't I see his figure?" The 10,000 swords and Lei Xiao kept searching, but they did not find any trace of Song Xianhu. Song Gucheng said indifferently, "There is a change in appearance. It is normal for you all to not be able to discern it at a glance. All you need to do is pay attention to the person in front of the ancient antiquity disciple." He. Wn Jian fixed his eyes on the martial ground. At this moment, Lu Xun stood on the stage, facing a young disciple. The qi on his body was very ordinary, so was the sword. He was wearing the sect uniform. The symbol of the sect was a drop of water. I've never seen such a medallion. There were many low-level sects, so it was normal that they hadn't seen one before. It should be an unknown sect. Even so, Lu Xun did not let his guard down. For him to be able to walk this far, it was not easy for him to obtain everything he had now. He would not easily lose. He wouldn't be careless either. He knew that every match was important. Lu Xun hugged onto him lightly and said, "Pull out the sword." The young man looked up and stared at Lu Xun, then chuckled, "I've never seen you before." Lu Xun didn't think about it too much and said, "I've also never seen you before." The young man looked carefully at the sect emblem on Lu Xun's chest, and said, "Ancient antiquity, it shouldn't be wrong, right?" Lu Xun was inwardly startled. There were many sects that used fire as their sect's crest, but the other party recognized his sect at a glance and said, "You know of the ancient antiquity." The young man said, "I know, of course I know. If I didn't know, I wouldn't be standing here." While they were talking, the aura on his body had become different. In that instant, the space between Lu Xun's brows tightened, his hand grabbing onto the sword hilt, he became even more careful. The young man was Song Xianhu. At this moment, his eyes were filled with disdain. When he saw Lu Xun, he had thought that Lu Xun wasn't from the ancient antiquity, because he hadn't appeared that night. The corner of Song Xianhu's mouth lifted slightly, his voice became cold, and he said, "I originally said it, I would kill all of your ancient antiquity. You're the first." With that, he disappeared. Lu Xun's mind stirred. In that instant, a purplish-yellow sword appeared on his body, his sword intent ignited, and he released all the power of the Emperor Swordsman rank without reservation. However, he was completely unable to keep up with Song Xianhu's speed. The difference in power was simply too great. He had never seen Song Xianhu before, so he didn't even have the chance to admit defeat now. Standing here, he never thought of admitting defeat. He closed his eyes. The purplish-yellow long sword was like his breath, sensing his surroundings. What happened to Brother Lu? Why did he close his eyes? Where's his opponent? Zhao Dehan was slightly taken aback. Bailey Tianhai's pupils contracted. Crap. Sir Xianji. Without waiting for Bailey Tianhai to finish speaking, Qian Xianbel disappeared. How powerful was a 6th-ranked Empyrean god? Her speed was unimaginable. With just a thought, he would be able to reach Lu Xun's side. With a flash of her beautiful figure, Qian Xianbel was already almost behind Lu Xun. However, in that instant, the 10,000 sword intent suddenly slashed down. Moreover, it was an invisible sword intent. As if struck by lightning, without any signs of life, even with Lu Xun's full concentration of 120%, he did not notice. Qian Xianbel realized, and shouted loudly, "Careful!" But, too late. Lu Xun raised his eyes. Rumble. Rumble. Thunder exploded, his body was riddled with hundreds of thousands of holes. The sword qi had pierced through Lu Xun's body like a clap of thunder. The sword qi had pierced through Lu Xun's body like a clap of thunder. In an instant, Lu Xun's body had gone through hundreds of thousands of holes, and like a sieve, fresh blood shot out explosively, turning into a blood mist. Lu Xun's pupils contracted rapidly. His body froze in place. And then, his eyes slowly dimmed down. With a bang, his body flipped backwards and fell onto the stage. He died. Qian Xianbel floated in midair, and was just a few meters away from the sword discourse arena. Looking at Lu Xun, who was below the stage, she secretly furrowed her brows. Song Xianhu, who was standing with his back straight, glanced at Lu Xun and laughed coldly. "You can't even take a single blow. Incomparable savagery. Brother Lu. Brother Lu. Brother Lu." On the seat of the ancient antiquity, everyone erupted. Brothers of 5 elements immediately flew up. Zhao Dahan also flew up, supporting Lu Xun, who had thousands of holes in his body, his eyes bloodshot. Staring fiercely at Song Xianhu, who was on the stage, he roared out, "I will kill you." Ah! Boom! The power on Zhao Dahan's body exploded out abruptly, and a wave of energy shot out, sending all of the surrounding sect disciples flying. He was furious. Song Xianhu was not afraid in the slightest as he mocked, "Kill me? Ha ha ha. This is a competition of the way of the sword. If you dare to even touch me, all of your sect's results will be cancelled. Your sect will also be expelled from the martial grounds, and kill me? Come on. Come on. Come up and try me, you dog." Zhao Dahan clenched his teeth and his knuckles clenched tightly, causing a series of cracking sounds to ring out as he stood up with a single step. Boom! Another strong wave of energy shot out. This time the ground shook. Song Xianhu was still not afraid in the slightest. Zhao Dahan leaped up, directly jumping to the stage. With both fists, the strength stripes could clearly be seen under his fists. He moved his body slightly, and a series of explosions sounded out. Song Xianhu stood there, unmoving. Ah! Zhao Dahan roared, and punched forward. At this moment, Wen Jian, Lei Xiao, and a few elders from other sects were moving quickly. At the same time, Bailey Tianhai also stepped into the air, his body moved, he quickly landed on the stage and stopped Zhao Dahan. "Big idiot, stop. Block Zhao Dahan." Zhao Dahan said, "Second brother, he killed brother Lu, he." Song Xianhu laughed disdainfully, "If you are not as good as others, then don't go up and compete. Since you are going up to compete, then you might die, understand? Why do you still want to fight? If you have the guts, then do it." Zhao Dahan was furious again and couldn't help but want to rush forward, but he was still stopped by Bailey Tianhai. At this time, the 10,000 swords, Lei Xiao and the rest all landed on the stage, standing behind Song Xianhu. With a shout from the myriad swords, he said, "Deaths and injuries can occur in a sword competition. These are unavoidable. If one's skill is inferior, he or she should have made preparations." Bailey Tianhai said, "Even so, you can't kill someone, right? Was this a competition of sword arts? This is murder, right?" Bailey Tianhai looked at Song Xianhu seriously. "Not at all. If Song Xianhu had a different face, it would be impossible to tell who he was. But Song Xianhu could recognize them." Song Xianhu laughed, "Trash should die. Living is just a waste of air. You." Bailey Tianhai glared at him. Song Xianhu laughed, "What's wrong with me? Am I wrong? It would be a waste of air for trash like you to live." Zhao Dahan shouted, "Do you dare to accept my challenge? If I don't knock you down today, I won't be named Zhao." Song Xianhu laughed coldly, and said, "Are you angry? Are you angry? You want to challenge me? Hee hee." Zhao Dahan said, "Stop with the nonsense, just tell me if you dare or not, stop wasting your King time." He was impatient, he couldn't help it. Lei Xiao said with a heavy voice, "What kind of place do you think the gods' material ground is? Is this a place where you can challenge others just because you say so? Now is the clan congress, not your personal grudge. Also, this is a competition between sword arts, do you understand?" Zhao Dahan did not even look at Lei Xiao, and stared at him. "You don't dare anymore, right? If you don't dare, then don't say we're trash. You're the trash." Rebellion. Song Xianhu. However, Song Xianhu wasn't angered in the slightest. A faint sneer hung on his face, and he said, "You want to challenge me, huh? Sure. Each of you count as one. I'll take it." He never intended to let Long Fei and the others go. He thought that Long Fei would be participating in the sword competition, but never thought that it would be Lu Xun. Right now, Zhao Dahan and the rest were rushing over, but Song Xianhu still did not see them, so they might as well kill until Long Fei came out. He said it that night. He wanted everyone in ancient antiquity to die. Since they were already here, then he might as well kill them all one by one. Wen Jian's brow furrowed as he took a step forward and said, "Now is the time for the competition. If you want to compete, then compete in the sword Dao." The power that Zhao Dahan had exploded out just now was simply too strong. Furthermore, the great god elder had been blocked by him with just one move. Although this guy was a emperor swordsman rank, his strength was probably not any weaker than God's powerhouse. Wen Jian was worried that Song Xianhu would lose out. Lei Xiao also followed. You're right, since it's a sword competition, then we should be competing in sword techniques. If you want to compete, then please send your sword disciples over. While speaking, Lei Xiao looked at Zhao Dahan and said, "You are a disciple of the sect, you do not qualify." Zhao Dahan was startled, and said angrily, "What kind of logic is this?" He just agreed, "What are you guys yelling for? Don't spout nonsense. Do you dare to fight with me?" He would not care so much. Wu Hu took a step forward, and said, "Is a sword should be used for cultivation? Then I'll do it." In their hearts, Lu Xun was their big brother, and had helped them a lot in cultivation. Now that Lu Xun had been killed in front of them, they could not tolerate this resentment. The 10,000 swords looked at Wu Hua and said, "You are a sword cultivator, then you can." Wu Tu also stepped forward, and said, "I am also a sword cultivator." "I'm also a sword cultivator." They were all about to step forward. Song Xianhu swept his gaze across them, his eyes filled with scorn. Right now, he did not place any of these people in his eyes at all. His eyes were a little devilish. Bailey Tianhai's gaze tightened, and said with a heavy voice, "All of you, quiet down." Zhao Dahan and brothers of 5 elements were stunned as they looked at Bailey Tianhai. Bailey Tianhai said, "Sect head Wen is right, we admit that our skills are inferior to others. Bring senior brother Lu Xun along, let's go." Zhao Dahan was stunned, he looked at Bailey Tianhai without moving, and opened his mouth to speak. Bailey Tianhai said with a heavy voice, "Let's go." No one dared to say anything else. He could only leave. Song Xianhu mocked, "A bunch of useless trash." Cluck, 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 cluck. Zhao Dahan's body seemed to be set on fire. Hearing the word trash made him unable to hold back at all. The others did the same. How could he be humiliated like this? He didn't feel good in his heart. All of them stood on the spot. Bailey Tianhai called out again, and said, "Let's go." Zhao Dahan was very confused. Why would Bailey Tianhai stop him from taking revenge? If Long Fei was here, he definitely wouldn't. He was confused, but he did not ask. Zhao Dahan said heavily, "Go back." Everyone flew back to the position of the ancient antiquity. Zhao Dahan immediately asked, "Second brother, why didn't you let me help?" "He killed brother Lu, can't he take revenge?" "That's right, brother Tianhai. We should avenge the brother Lu. That grandson is too arrogant. Senior brother Lu Xun died a tragic death. Even if we aren't a match, aren't we still in the presence of senior Xianji? She is the god's powerhouse, she can definitely trample that grandson." Everyone looked at Bailey Tianhai. Even Chen Xianbel was a little confused. If they fought, she would definitely help. After all, she was now on the same boat as Long Fei. Bailey Tianhai said, "That person is Song Xianhu." "Huh? Huh? Song Xianhu? Brother Tianhai, you must be mistaken. How could that person be Song Xianhu? Wasn't he crippled by the boss? It had only been 2 days, yet everything was fine. Furthermore, the power that had exploded out earlier was much stronger than that night. Otherwise, he wouldn't have. Kill senior brother Lu Xun." Exactly. They had seen Song Xianhu before, and he didn't look like this at all. Even if it was Song Xianhu, he wouldn't be able to recover in 2 short days. Furthermore, the entire Heavenly Law City was talking about the matter of Song Xianhu getting crippled. Bailey Tianhai said, "I am sure that he is Song Xianhu, and that is why I stopped you. That day, we all saw him being crippled by boss, and it is definitely impossible for him to recover from his injuries in such a short period of time. To become even stronger means that he has an even stronger backer. He should be a powerhouse of the divine space, a real powerhouse." Bailey Tianhai's observation was very minute. A person's appearance was changing, but his eyes couldn't change. In that instant, He saw the devilish charm in Song Xianhu's eyes, as though he was a fox. He immediately determined in his heart that it was Song Xianhu. He was obviously here for the ancient antiquity, to seek revenge. Since he still dared to appear, he had made all the preparations. Furthermore, one thing was certain, he had become much stronger, much more powerful than he was 2 days ago. Zhao Dahan muttered, and said, "So what if it's Song Xianhu? When he gets stronger, so do we. Is there a need to be afraid of him?" Just now, when he absorbed a drop of Spirit Blood's power, his power seemed to have increased explosively. He felt that he would be able to defeat Song Xianhu. Bailey Tianhai said, "You are cultivating in defense, and although your strength has become stronger, it is not to the extent of killing God's powerhouse. The 5 of you are also very talented, but you need to be able to combine the 5 of you and unleash your full strength. If we split up, you wouldn't be able to use your full strength." Zhao Dahan said, "Are we not going to avenge the brother Lu?" Bailey Tianhai said, "Of course we will, wait for boss to wake up." He looked at Long Fei, who was meditating. At this time, everyone looked at Long Fei. At this moment, Long Fei was still frantically absorbing the aura released by the god's material ground. It kept pouring into his heart. It was still the same as before, making him unable to feel the power within the auras. He could only feel his body unceasingly storing these auras. Moreover, he couldn't control himself either. The power released by the god's material ground was definitely useful. At the moment, Long Fei did not know about it. During this process, Long Fei could faintly feel the qi in his body slowly forming a kind of power. This power was not the power of the heavens. Nor was it the power of other Daos. There's the power of the path of king. This power was like the emperor of the Dao. The Dao of the emperor of the myriad Daos. The Dao of the emperor. This was the result of the fusion of the god's material ground's qi and the heart of King's power. His body was a container, and a chemical reaction would occur within this container. The way of the emperor was a product of a chemical reaction. This power. Long Fei was shocked, because he felt that this power made him feel that it was stronger than the power of the ancient dragon body. Moreover, not a bit stronger. If the power of the ancient dragon body was said to be an ancient giant dragon, then Holy Dragon Emperor's body would extend for 100,000 kilometers, then this power of the Emperor would be the vast and boundless universe. In the universe, the power of the ancient dragon body was only a small dot. He was incomparably weak. Of course. This was just what Long Fei felt. Right now, he had not even touched the skin of the power of the Emperor, but this power was slowly being born within his body and was not yet being controlled by him. Huff. Long Fei let out a light breath, and continued to absorb the qi from the god's material ground. Endure it. Seems like. Song Xianhu's eyes slightly narrowed, and lightly said, "He should already know my identity." Wn Jian said, "Are you really Immortal Fox?" Song Xianhu nodded his head. He did not call him master, he was now the disciple of the 3rd clan elder, and the 10,000 swords were no longer his master. His identity was also different from before. Even if one called him Master Wanjian, he or she wouldn't be able to afford it. Lei Xiao said excitedly, "Immortal Fox, is it really as the great senior brother said, that you've been chosen by the 3rd elder of the Devil tribe?" Song Xianhu nodded his head once again, and said, "Amen, the only thing I need to do now is to exterminate the ancient antiquity, and kill Long Fei, then I will leave." But Song Xianhu looked at the seat of the ancient antiquity. That trash is now a turtle dove in hiding. Killing Long Fei was the only thing he wanted to do in the mortal world. As long as he killed Long Fei, his mental fortitude was even more firm. This would be of great help to his cultivation in the divine space. Lei Xiao smiled slightly and said, "Immortal Fox, don't worry, I will bring him out for the competition." Song Xianhu looked at Lei Xiao. Lei Xiao asked, "Do you know why the god's extreme palace was destroyed?" God's extreme palace doesn't have any grudges with ancient antiquity. How could they be annihilated by that brat? That's because the elders of the god's extreme palace know that the ancient antiquity possesses a vein of holy source. Song Xianhu's forehead tightened, a mine for the holy source's vein? Thinking about how Long Fei had bought everything at the auction and even snatched his god's pavilion, his heart was filled with rage. Now that he thought about it, where did a mere middle-ranking sect get so much money from? Lei Xiao said, "That's right, the holy source vein mine. As long as we divulge this news to the esteemed gods, they can send their disciples to beat the people of the ancient antiquity one by one. If he loses all of them, he will definitely fight. If you want to defeat him in front of everyone, you can do it." The veins of the holy source were extremely rare. The veins of the holy source were extremely rare. It was extremely hard to find. Let alone the ancient world, even in the divine space, it was extremely valuable in the ancient clan's world. A single vein mine of the holy source meant an incomparably strong cultivation resource. Whoever could control such a vein mine with the holy source would be able to control the world. Long Fei had obtained the holy source vein mine, and in a short 2 months, he had allowed everyone beside him to break through the Emperor Swordsman rank. From this, one could see just how powerful the holy source vein mine was. It was exactly as Lei Xiao had expected. When the elders from the divine space came down, the powerhouse's eyes immediately emitted a greedy light. All of them were very excited. After all, the cultivation of the divine space also required resources, and they also needed more cultivation resources. "Are you speaking the truth? You know what happens when you lie to us? If you dare to lie to us, forget about the fact that your Sword Sky sect is a power of the Devil tribe. Even if it's the Devil tribe, we will still make you die an ugly death." A few elderly God Realm warriors narrowed their eyes and stared at Lei Xiao. Lei Xiao raised 4 of his fingers, and said, "I swear on my own life, if I lie to you, I will die a horrible death. How can I lie to all of you masters? You guys have seen the strength of those people just now. If not for the powerful energy from the holy source veins mine, would they have become this strong? Although I don't know what ancient martial arts is, but I know that cultivating any technique requires a lot of cultivation resources. The higher the rank of the technique, the more power of the holy source is required." Lei Xiao said resolutely. He was not sure whether or not ancient antiquity had the holy source vein mine either. However, he wanted to kill ancient antiquity. Even if they did not in the end, the Devil tribe would still appear to protect the Sword Sky sect. He believed in the power of the Devil tribe. Moreover, in the end, everyone had all died. Where would he go to ask about the matter regarding the holy source vein mine? His right, the cultivation of the ancient martial arts not only requires talent, but also endless cultivation resources. Cultivating this cultivation technique is like filling a bottomless pit. So you're saying, they really have a vein mine of the holy source in their hands? It can't be wrong. I never thought that they could actually find something from the legends. If it's big, then it really is the spirit vein of the ancient world. Didn't they say that every single vein mine of the holy source is guarded by a defense tribe? Could they be the descendants of the defense tribe? Definitely not. If they were defense tribe, then they wouldn't have died on the sword discourse arena just now. Furthermore, I don't even know if the defense tribe exists or not. Who has seen them before? Who has ever been to the Guardian tribe? No one knows. Don't talk so much, I'm going over right now. As soon as one of the High God Elders finished speaking, his figure flashed. Buzz. They disappeared into the air and appeared in front of Bailey Tianhai and the others in the next second. Everyone shivered. Zhao Dahan glared at him. "Who are you?" Bailey Tianhai walked up, hugged his hands, and said politely, "Master, what are you doing here?" Looking at the divine light beneath the feet of the elderly god of light, they all knew in their hearts that this guy was divine powerhouse with extraordinary strength. The divine old man went straight to the point. "Does your ancient antiquity have a holy source vein mine?" Bailey Tianhai asked. "Holy source vein mine? Master, are you talking about the legendary holy source pulse or that kind of vein mine for the holy source that can only be produced after hundreds of millions of years?" The elderly god said, "Yes." Bailey Tianhai smiled faintly and said, "Master, why would such a divine object appear in the mortal world? If there is one, it should be in the divine space. The elderly god spirit said with a sinister look on his face, "Does that mean you don't have the holy source veins mine?" Bailey Tianhai shook his head, "No." The god's father's eyes slightly narrowed, the corners of his mouth curled up, and his words became cold. "I know that your cultivations are all not bad, and there are also quite a few people who have cultivated the ancient martial arts, however. The ancient martial arts that you all have cultivated in is just a piece of skin. Not a successor of the ancient power, so as long as I send out any disciple of the divine space, I will be able to defeat you all." "Understood." Bailey Tianhai said, "Master Supreme God is right, we are only mortals, you are all divine powerhouse, how can we compare?" "But I don't know what you mean by that, sir." At this time, one of the high god elders landed and said solemnly, "What do you mean?" "That means don't act cool in front of us. Just say whatever it is and lie to us. You can't imagine what will happen to you." Bailey Tianhai revealed a puzzled look and said, "How could we dare to lie to Master God?" "Humph." One of the elders coldly snorted, "Are you still not going to tell me the truth?" As soon as he finished, buzz, rumble. The god's power immediately burst out, the powerful pressure striking down like a thunderbolt. An incomparably thick divine light immediately formed above their heads, as the might of the God of Heaven descended onto their minds. It was also at this time, buzz, a ray of divine light blocked the attack. Qian Xianbel's body trembled, her clothes started to sway, and the sixth stage god's power that was exploding out from her body went up, blocking the divine pressure. The two forces collided. It was like the collision of two heavens. Rumble, 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 boom, boom, boom. The God Realm Elder was also shocked, his expression sinister, his gaze immediately locking onto Qian Xianbel, God State. The pressure dissipated. However, Qian Xianbel was also in great pain as she retreated a few steps. The divine light on her body was released and the veil covering her head fell as she shook. Everyone was shocked. God's Extreme Palace's Palace Master? It's Qian Xianbel. Isn't she at the 9th level of the Sword Emperor realm? Why is it God's State? It's really Qian Xianbel. Damn, wasn't the God's Extreme Palace destroyed by the ancient antiquity? Why are you still with them? Discussions broke out. Xianming Abyss raised his eyebrows, his eyes flashed with a bright light, and he said indifferently, 6th stage God State. There's only one possibility for him to reach the 6th rank of an Empyrean god in such a short period of time. Fusing with a holy godhead. If she can join the ancient antiquity, this holy godhead should be given to her by Long Fei. That is to say, Xianming Abyss's heart tensed up when he thought about this. Seems like I have still underestimated the strength of that kid, even a 6th-ranked deity is not his opponent. He really is extraordinary. For the King Swordsman rank to be able to kill a 6th-stage deity, no one would believe that, right? It was hard to imagine. It was hard to imagine. Long Fei was too much of a shock to him. However, the more it was like this, the more excited Xianming Abyss was in his heart, because the stronger Long Fei was, the more things he would obtain. Moreover, he wasn't worried at all, as Long Fei would definitely die today. The god of underworld had already brought him here, what was there for him to be afraid of? No one could stop him. Xianming Abyss revealed a proud smile, looked at the ancient antiquity side, and said indifferently, "Holy source vein mine? Hee hee. The biggest treasure should be that brat." The waiter asked in a low voice, "Sir, should we go and stop them?" Xianming Abyss said, "No need, now is the time to get these old fellows to help, let's see what other trump cards they have. Just a mere 6th stage deity's strength alone is unable to stop these old fellows, and furthermore." Xianming Abyss swept his gaze across. The corner of his mouth curled up as he said, "The divine spark Qian Xianbel fused with should be a divine spark of the darkness element. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the Dark Apostle of the Dark Emperor. They should be chasing after that little girl from the Phoenix Valley." Xian's was very clear about what was happening in the divine space every day. Many people knew about the little girl that the Dark Emperor had always wanted to get his hands on in the Phoenix Valley. Dragon Vein Mountain was exterminated. That little girl ran away. It was not easy for the Dark Emperor to escape to the mortal world, but he still sent his men to chase after him. Since she still had not succeeded, it meant that the little girl must have Powerhouse by her side, and that Powerhouse should be Long Fei. The divine spark that Qian Shen Bell fused with was the divine spark of the Dark Apostle. When Qian Shen Bell erupted with his god's power, in the dark, the Dark Apostle hidden in the crowd had already sensed it. Their gazes darkened. It's number 37. As expected. His disappearance is indeed a death, but I never thought that there would actually be an expert capable of killing number 37 by the side of that little girl. Could he be an elder of the Phoenix Valley? Hard to say. However, the Lord of Phoenix Valley has been sending people to keep watch. If it's an elder of the Phoenix Valley, then we should have received the news. If she isn't someone from the Phoenix Valley, then who is protecting her? Monster. None of the demons in the mortal world can match up to number 37. Let's not think about that for now. If we die, then so be it. As long as we wait for that girl, she will be fine. I understand, but there are people from Phoenix Valley here today. Don't worry, they have people. We have people too. On ancient antiquities side. Qian Shen Bell took a few steps back, but still blocked the God Realm Elder's pressure. Furthermore, she put away her god's power at the very front to prevent divine powerhouse from attacking again. I didn't expect there to be a god's powerhouse, no wonder you're so arrogant. However, the other high god elder disdainfully said, a 6th grade deity isn't enough. If you don't tell the truth, you'll all die in the arena. I promise. Zhao Dahan could not hold it in anymore, and shouted angrily, does our having a vain mine of the holy source have anything to do with you? If the Sword Sky sect can't deal with us, then you guys can deal with us now, right? Sure. I will say this right now. If you have the ability, then come at me. I'm still scared of you. If I don't die, then one day, I will kill all of you. The brothers of 5 elements also stepped forward in unison. Threats. They had never been afraid before. So what if you have Powerhouse S of the divine space? Don't say that. Just do it directly. The 2 God Realm Elders had ugly expressions, staring at Zhao Dahan. He said, I have already said my piece, since that is the case, let us meet on the stage. You just wait and see. A bunch of arrogant brats. Humph. With a flick of their sleeves, their figures disappeared from the spot. Zhao Dahan took a step forward, and said, if you have the ability, then start fighting right now, why are you running? Your father is afraid of you. The 2 of them disappeared. The next moment, he was back to his original position. It was also at this time. Qian Shen Bell's body sank and he almost fell to the ground. His face immediately became pale as blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. Wu Shuai immediately supported her. Bailey Tianhai frowned, are you alright? Qian Shen Bell shook his head, it's nothing serious, but I'm afraid. She had just fused with the Holy Godhead last night. Although she was now at the 6th stage of the God of Heaven, she could not even release the power of a 3rd stage God. Bailey Tianhai did not ask for more. After all, if Qian Shen Bell did not stop them, some of them would have been injured. Moreover, what was her relationship with Long Fei? So what if there was a relationship? This is like doing it with all the divine spaces in God's material ground, you might lose your life at any time. Bailey Tianhai said, take a good rest. His gaze subconsciously fell on Long Fei who was still meditating and cultivating, and his heart secretly tightened. Wu Hua asked in a low voice, Brother Tianhai, if those old fellows from the divine space truly send out their disciples, how should we deal with them? Zhao Dahan said angrily, what are you afraid of, just go with them, is divine space impressive? Is divine space just randomly bullying? Bailey Tianhai did not reply. He knew very well how strong they were right now. The only person who could contend against God's powerhouse was Zhao Dahan, so he might not necessarily be 100% sure of it. Furthermore, if brothers of 5 elements were to fight together, perhaps it would be possible for them to use the power of the 5 elements, but if he were to fight alone, he would definitely not be a match for the other party. What should he do now? Bailey Tianhai did not know either. Even with 8 brains, he couldn't come up with a solution. At this time, if he wanted to solve the problem with his strength, no matter how many brains he had, it would all be useless. Bailey Tianhai could not help but clench his fists. Zhao Dehan muttered, if only boss had woken up. Second brother, what is boss cultivating? Why don't we wake the boss up? Bailey Tianhai immediately said, that won't do, boss must have sensed something when he was cultivating all of a sudden, we cannot disturb him. We have to rely on ourselves. He understood Long Fei better than anyone else. When Long Fei was training during this kind of competition, he definitely had some sort of powerful enlightenment. Otherwise, he definitely would have been awake for such a long time. What should I do? Bailey Tianhai frowned. At this time, in terms of strength, you guys are definitely not a match for those divine space disciples. Furthermore, offending them several times has already angered those divine powerhouses, and with the fact that they want to obtain the holy source Vane's mine, they will definitely not let us off the hook for the upcoming competition. They will definitely threaten us one step at a time. My darling is in closed-door cultivation again. So. Phoenix raised her eyes and a bright light flashed in them. She said, wait for me. If there are disciples of the divine space, then those from the ancient antiquity will not be a match for them. If there are disciples of the divine space, then those from the ancient antiquity will not be a match for them. Junior brother Lei, your technique is really powerful. Wen Jian laughed in satisfaction. He looked at Lei Xiao and asked, does ancient antiquity really have the holy source Vane's mine? Song Gucheng also looked at Lei Xiao and said, the third elder is also more concerned about this issue. Lei Xiao shook his head and said, I am also not sure about this, I am only guessing. After all, it had only been a few days, and no one knew whether or not the ancient antiquity had control over the veins of the holy source. I need time to prove it. Speculation? Speculation? The space between their eyebrows tightened. Lei Xiao said, to Senior Brother S, please rest assured. Once Clan Congress is done, I will personally make a trip to the ancient antiquity to investigate. In addition, annihilate the ancient antiquity again. If they didn't teach Song Xianhu a lesson, and provoked the Sword Sky sect, then he wouldn't be the #1 sect. Wen Jian stood up and said, since that's the case, then let's speed up the assembly. While they were talking, the 10,000 swords walked towards the stage, their voices trembling. The entire god's material ground quieted down immediately. All eyes were on him. Wen Jian said, the challenger of the top 100 sects has been created. Next, the challenger will be in the top 100 sects. Is it last year's top 100 sects or this year's challengers are stronger? The rest is up to you guys. The rules of the top 100 challenge competition is the same as before. The only difference is that the top 100 challenge tournament is a comprehensive result. According to the comprehensive result, the top 10 sects will fight their final ranking battles. I'll give everyone 10 minutes to prepare. After 10 minutes, the first round of the 100 heroic challenge competition, the alchemy competition. As soon as he finished, the 10,000 swords returned to their original positions. At the same time, he looked at the top 100 sects of the older generation. The elders of the various sects, sect masters, and sect masters all nodded their heads respectfully towards the 10,000 swords. It could be said that the top 100 sects of the older generation had not changed much even after hundreds of years, because if they wanted to enter the top 100 sects, they had to obtain the recognition of the Sword Sky Sect S. In other words, these top 100 sects were controlled by the Sword Sky Sect. Whoever the Sword Sky Sect wanted to be one of the top 100 sects, he could have. If some powerful new sects emerged and wanted to enter the top 100, they would first have to be obedient. If they didn't, then, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to enter the top 100. Sword Sky Sect had controlled the Clan Congress for hundreds of years. All these years, the Sword Sky Sect had sent many genius disciples to the divine space, which made the power of the Sword Sky Sect even greater. If the Sword Sky Sect were to become a subordinate of the Devil Tribe, then he would be the sole ruler of the mortal world's sects. No sect could afford to offend them. The older generation of the top 100 sects had to pay tribute to the Sword Sky sect every year, and it was only because of this that they were able to keep their top 100 qualifications. Just now, with a single glance from the 10,000 swords, the sect heads had already understood what they meant. Not obedient. Then pressed to death. A mere ancient antiquity dares to act rashly in front of the Sword Sky sect. Isn't this equivalent to courting death? Just now, the Sword Sky sect sent someone over to report that they are attacking ancient antiquity from all sides. If you want ancient antiquity to enter, it will be difficult. I don't think we need help. Look at those over-gods, they are also discussing countermeasures. They already couldn't hold back their anger. They didn't need us to do anything. Are you saying that the ancient antiquity does not have an ancient vein mine? That is a legendary divine object, whoever can obtain it will become stronger. Who knows? But I know that after this time, ancient antiquity will be removed from the list. No one denies that. Offending both Sword Sky sect and ancient family at the same time, it would be hard to not die. Master, what are we going to do? Xianming Abyss smiled faintly and said, no need, this year's clan congress will be different. Since this Sword Sky sect knows how to take advantage of the situation, it seems like it's time to wash the cards. The waiter's expression changed. Then Xianming Abyss said, our target is Long Fei. But Sword Sky sect wants to dominate the mortal world. Hehe. That's why it's fine for our people to target the Sword Sky sect. The Xians was the overlord of the ancient world. The 10,000 swords didn't even ask him if he wanted to dominate the mortal world's sects, but Xianming Abyss couldn't be bothered to care about that these past few years. But now, he wanted to change the sect's influence. The divine spaces people would snipe at the ancient antiquities people. And the disciples of the Sword Sky sect will be safely promoted, however. Xianming Abyss would not allow the 10,000 swords to do as they pleased. He wanted everyone to know that the Xians was the overlord. 10 minutes passed quickly. Wen Jian walked back to the podium and said, the 100 challenge competition will now begin. The disciples of the various sects are invited to come out and fight. And then, the 10,000 swords swept out with their sleeves. Rumble. 200 alchemy arenas appeared on the gods' material ground. The difference from the previous time was, the materials placed on the alchemy arenas were of an even higher level. And, the aura of his alchemy had also become stronger. Long Fei immediately felt the change in his aura. It was very strong. Long Fei was secretly shocked. This aura has become stronger again. It seems to be very similar to the first aura. Another reincarnation? Long Fei's heart secretly tensed up. The enormous aura still did not stop, and continued to rush into his heart. The heart of Kings's power and the aura on the god's material ground continued to interweave and fuse together. Furthermore, this power made Long Fei feel as if he was about to break through his shackles, as if he was about to break through the Emperor Swordsman rank. This was completely different from the feeling he had when he wanted to break through the Emperor Swordsman rank. In the past, he had wanted to forcefully break through. However, this time, it was naturally. It was a very relaxed feeling, as if he could easily cross over the first step of time. Long Fei was a little excited in his heart. The Emperor Swordsman rank will appear, what will his power of life be? At the same time, Wu Hua walked forward and said, eldest sister-in-law, I'll go test the waters first. If not, you can't go up again. Yes. Wu Hua is right, what if those disciples of the divine space aren't powerful too? Furthermore, Boss has really taught me a lot about ancient martial arts. Wu Hua doesn't even understand the concept of alchemy, so being able to refine high-level pellets shouldn't be a problem. Bailey Tianhai looked at the phoenix and said, Boss is currently in closed-door training. If he is awake, he wouldn't let you go up. Let Wu Hua go up and try first. Phoenix said, those disciples of the divine space are all God's state. If their alchemy technique aren't a match for it, they will still use force to crush it. At that time, Wu Hua laughed innocently, and said, sister-in-law, you don't have to worry, my fighting strength is not bad either. Don't worry. I'll go test out their strength first. While they were talking, Wu Hua immediately flew down. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.